Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. 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 Artlist.io. Music licensing. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
All right, literally GM, stateside at least. Since I botched the share screen thing, trying to prepare in advance, I figure I'll start a minute or two early. That way, I hit the ground running. Already a better stream than Doughboy's got going, right? Am I right? Happy Fool's Day. Happy common ritual, the team making critical announcements, normally 3 days, but in this case, 12 hours before the season starts. We talk a little bit about the meatier portions of that. Most of the economic impacts of that decision don't take place until next season, to be fair, but some do. I mean, if you were trying to sell a big horse, that information would have been and is super useful. What's up, Mo? This is sacrilegious for you to be on this one as opposed to Doughboy, right? Riptide, I'm not positive. I legitimately was out of town, which added to my frustration. I was actually sweating a DFS main slate during family pictures and just watching my potential winnings go from the low to mid six figures down to a wonderful $2,200. So it was all downhill quite literally in the afternoon yesterday, but a good weekend overall. We got the Gophers finally won Floyd of Rosedale against Iowa. First time they beat Iowa in Iowa since 1999. And I think the first time since they have the trophies of the Paul Bunyan Axe, which is Minnesota and Wisconsin, and then Floyd of Rosedale, which is Minnesota, Iowa. Together, they have both trophies since 1993. So that just means the Gophers are going to lose to Wisconsin here. So good things are meant to be broken in Minnesota. I'm going to refresh without hopefully screwing this up. I got the 3 windows for sure that I want to open. I can't remember if we got Foals right at the top of the hour or if it was like a half hour later. So if they're here, we'll know. They are here. Okay. Being cognizant of your guys' time and being pulled multiple directions, the first 2 people that agree will do it that way. Do you want me to reveal Colts that have potential breeding value first, or do you want me to reveal Foals first? I need 2 answers that agree. Don't all jump at once. Bueller. Hearing none. I'm going to do the Colts. Because maybe everybody's focused their attention on Doughboy, maybe. I'll reveal Mall Riptide. I'm just saying, I think we have an interesting population of Colts here as well, because most of these will hit the breeding barn. And in that case, I want to make sure I change my filter here. Youngest age 4. So these will be kind of a sneak peek at what will be coming to the barn. There's only 3, but I think they're all really interesting. 2 of them were in the Derby. Had it not gone sloppy, maybe had somewhat of a chance. And then Dirty Diana was in the majorette. RT as well. Probably a 6 furlong horse, not a 10 furlong horse. Cosmic Wood would also be a shorter distance horse. Ultraviolet, 10 is the right spot, but sloppy is not the right when you have 9 of 9 preferences for the preference Nazis out there. So we will start. We can start with Ultraviolet. Let's start with the S-. So this was when we thought Shawnee Bear was too good to pass up. So this would have been the first window with Violet, which is our A+ 25 total boost, 9 of 9 total preferences. Shawnee Bear has 8.5. We got the roll up on Dirt to be perfect 9 of 9. Super interesting horse because it has not gotten second or third in 29 times of trying, but has actually won more than 33% of the time. And you can see, 10, 11, and 12. Why it didn't race at 11 is a reflection of the owner of the horse. But we'll see what we get here. I would expect this is going to be a usable piece for it. I wouldn't have said that until it ripped off a bunch of wins recently with good fleet figures or middling, but good fleet figures at kind of 10 furlongs. Went 1, 2, 3, 4 races in a row. Then we won 3 out of the next 4 as well. So it seems like this is really coming into peak age at the end of the age 3 season, which is also when the Derby happens. So let's see what we got here. Watch me not be able to retire. What does this mean? Retirement is currently disabled. Lovely. What's up, Sasha? Well, we ran into our first roadblock of the day. Apparently I cannot reveal or retire our Colts. This is probably a function of changing things within 12 hours of the window that people are going to do this stuff, but that's the last I'll say on that today. I guess we'll do the Foals and hope that works. So we're starting bottom to top. We'd made suggestions that the team add filters so you could truly filter age 0 so that you could legitimately be surprised of what the grade is. Because what's going to happen is if I know Full of River is now a 1-year-old is an A+, then either everything below it is an A+, or for sure everything above it and in between this and Miss Lippy, like these are A+. Like we already know that. So if we could filter for age 0, that would actually add some of the mystery to it. But some of these lower grade ones, we will probably rapid fire a little bit, but then we'll slow down and review stuff when we get to maybe the higher S- levels, S, and hopefully an S+, but I'm not that optimistic. So starting with Scarlet, get a filly. RTS, this one will be on the marketplace by the end of the day. We're not competing in RTS. It has nice preferences. This would have went back to the Grape Syndicate guys. Shout out to Riptide. I think we consistently use Trotsky. So an S- with does not compute. Was that an A? This might be an S- with an A that stayed an A. This actually might be an interesting runner. Let's try that again. Oh, A-, but still, the midpoint is either a strong A or a low A+. Again, we've seen things too different than the midpoint, but that'd be an interesting one that will be available for sale for sure. Full of Jade, this would be an LTS, A- originally. It's an A. I just want to look quickly to see what we used for sires. I could probably pull it up in Excel, but this might be more fun anyways. So we went back to Blood Moon for everything LTS then that hadn't already used it. Let's pull it up. It'll just be easier. Gooch, there's not much there at RTS. We just have the 2 Gen 0s that we've bred to Trotsky. Scarlet really is the best from a preference standpoint, but it's an A-, and then we have a more middling A that would have probably went to Trotsky as well. So if this is right, which I don't know if it stays up to date or not. No, it doesn't, because I didn't use Saturn, so we'll ignore that. I thought that would tell me who I bred with, but getting back on track, Willow is an A LDF. So let's see what we got for Full of Willow. We stay A. Pretty solid preferences. So all of our, with the exception of 2, one that's not even in our barn, but the 2 S's that we had control of for this season went to One-Eyed Blind, the namesake horse of OEB stable. And everything else went to Persian Bold, which is his S-. So we kind of played into the preference Nazi's hands a little bit. But it was part of a larger deal of, if I throw you volume on Persian Bold, does that allow me to have any sort of discount as it relates to One-Eyed Blind? So Summer is an A LDF. And yeah, I see you guys dropping horses in the chat. I'll try to pull them up when we get there. So far, so good on the Fillies, though. Just 1 Colt in there. And I think Jade had ripped, or no, Jasmine's the one that had ripped off like all Fillies all the time. Savannah, this would be RTF. Our RTF pieces would have went to Mercury, which is our S-, the higher of the 2 S-, RTF Colts. Philly, good preferences. We take these. So basically now we know everything's an A+ for a while here, but we'll go through them. Sage, that's RTF. It's an A- originally, I think. Maybe an A. Gets a Colt. Ruth. I don't know if this is LTS or RTS. It was RTF. Colt. Not great, but not a consequential piece for us. I'll tell you when we get to the Fillies that I'm really going to care about the gender on, and you'll probably tell by my reaction. River, A- RTF, was a good racer. All right, 8 total preferences on a Filly. That'll be useful. Old Trafford, one we picked up after the game started. That's where Manchester United plays, I think. I should at least know that. It's in the LDF A+. So this stayed an A+. So when we talk about things that, if the global grade stays kind of below the median outcome, if you take an S- with an A+, which we did here, and you get an A+, like, I'm probably going to be pretty excited to race this one, even if I would have preferred it to be an S-. And it's a Filly. Not really that great on preferences. And Old Trafford had decent preferences. And Persian Bolt has nice preferences as well. So let's just see what happened here. We go from, I guess Persian Bolt's maybe a touch lower than I thought it was. 6.5 and 7. And we get 6. Yeah, we did go down. Even a down roll would have been 6.5. And we went down to 6. We don't know for sure if that means anything. At least I don't. But things I'm keeping track of. We had one that was LDF with LDF last season, and it went to 0-star firm. Like, that would have been so below the median outcome on your expectation for firm. So those are the ones I'm trying to track here a little bit. Full of Miss Lippy. Again, because it's not a single name female, this is one we acquired. after the game started. This is an LTS. Its foals have been pretty good racers, which makes me think that there's potentially an earlier peak age. And we get a filly. That's perfect. I think Miss Lippy is an A. Melody, we acquired this after live, but we got it as a ticket. This is a really strong A+ LTS. So we stayed A+ with a really strong one. That's kind of a feels bad. I definitely want a filly here because this is a very, very useful original piece. It'll be a Colt. Yeah, figures. The first one of the ones I care about gender, we get a Colt. Should be a good racer. Blood Moon. So again, what we just talked about, S- with a top A+. And I know this doesn't always look top, but there's just not that many fillies at LTS to begin with. So it should be a strong racer, probably not super useful for breeder, so it'll probably get some run-in claimers potentially, or maybe even grade restricted because it stayed an A+. A few more A+ to go. I'll try not to spoil where I can without scrolling up too far. May, I think this is the RTS one. Would have went to Trotsky again, I think, as well. No, see, I don't even know my own horses. Must have been an A LDF. Came over in the Poseidon deal. Mary, I think this is LTS. Chat, we're getting crushed on Colts here. I got cocky. That's 3 straight, including one I cared about. David must be on with Doughboy. I need the live tally of where we're ending up. Lily, I believe this is an LTS as well. Not one I particularly care on gender. I mean, obviously you want fillies. We'll take that. Kennedy is an LDF. And it is an LDF A+. So this is another one with Persian Bold, where Persian Bold is an S-. Kennedy is an A+ and stays A+. And you get a Colt. So that's either claimers or grade restricted if we're lucky. Jasmine is A- LTS. It's really, I think it's only put out fillies, and it's consistently gone up in grade. I don't know if any of her are super good racers, but when you go up in grade, sometimes you're not a good racer because of that. And that's the first Colt, I think. Shoot. Georgia. This is a pretty strong A RTF that obviously goes to A+ here. I would prefer filly here. This is definitely one that I would care about the gender on. And we did. Not as crazy preferences as I thought. Ember, this is a LDF. Filly. Okay. Not seeing the best preference carry forward from the Persian Bold one, so we'll see what that looks like. I know we were one of the first people to kind of use it, definitely use it with any volume, which I'm always open to using it with volume if others haven't done it, but early results aren't great on the grade and preferences. Daisy, I'm gonna guess LDF, but it could be LTS. I don't even know on this one. LDF, we get a filly and pretty strong on firm there. Bowl of Brooklyn's Finest. So now with our naming convention comes in absolute handy, because now we know it's not a single female name, it's more than one word. So this would be the first of today's, at least, of the Gen 1 Fillies revealing full. And we get a filly. So we can look at this. I think Brooklyn's Finest was an A+, so I don't think we moved up in grade. But again, with Persian Bold, maybe not super surprising. Yeah, so, Brooklyn was an A initially, went up to A+. So yeah, if you figure that A+ was probably a low A+, if you average S- and strong A, you probably get middling A+. Then you kind of run it back more or less. And you get A+. So not a bad result there. It's a filly. It's useful. Full of Brooklyn. So we've got the Brooklyn stuff stacking up here. Like mother, like daughter, more or less. Maybe a half star difference on the preference. I almost don't want to scroll up to see if these are S minuses. So I realize you can't see everything perfectly here, but I don't want to ruin the global grade if I can avoid it. We'll do the violet one. So violet, we would very much care. That's the A plus, LDF, 25 total boost, 9 of 9 preferences. This we want to be an S minus filly. I don't even know if S minus is possible. Got a filly. And we got an S minus. All right. That's a big win. And that's why I didn't want to ruin the global grade. That's a nice, pleasant surprise there. Whopper, probably the most hideous name we have in the barn, but another A plus LDF we picked up after someone else named that abominable name. Let's see what we got. I don't really care. Filly would be nice. We get a Colt. The rest of these we're probably comfortably in the S minus range for a little bit. Whopper's a banger. Full of page turner or the page turner. And I think there is actually 2 page turners. Maybe one didn't have the I in there as in the girl's name, so that's going to get confusing in a hurry. But Page is A plus RTF. The page turner would have been the first filly offspring of that. So get another Gen 1 filly reveal. Get a Colt there. It's going to be tough to be overly useful. Saving Grace. Again, Grace would have been the LTS A plus filly. Saving Grace would have been the Gen 1. So LTS. Okay. Useful. Savannah Smiles, another Gen 1. We talked about Savannah as an RTF A minus, I think, originally. So now we're up to S minus. That's some progression there. I agree, T Green. I agree. Another filly. I think where it counts is going to come up further up top, but I think our filly ratio is improving. You just have to complain about things, and then they actually just get better. Full of Sage advice. Again, Sage would be, I think it's an A RTF. Now we're up to the S minus, even though it was bred with an S minus, I believe, because it's from a Gen 1 filly. The naming convention is really nice. It's actually helping. 8 preferences. That's probably something that would have been lovely as a filly. Maybe someone will like it. That'll definitely probably be a claimer, I think. I don't know. We have to evaluate where horses are going to run. I haven't even registered for a race this season and might not even at all today. We'll see. Rosebud is a A plus RTF, so our Rose is an A plus RDF. So this is another crop 1. Filly, good preferences. We'll take that. Nothing I care strongly about in this next row. Rose would be the Gen 0 A plus RTF. Filly. River of Dreams, so that'd be a banger song and an A minus RTF originally. Colt. We're getting a few of these what would be Gen 2 pieces being Colts. That's not super exciting, but yeah, Mo knows. Full of Reagan, A plus LDF. We've probably already been over a couple of them. Chat probably knows better than me. No, RTF. I was wrong. Okay, next row I don't really care about. Princess Jasmine. So this would have been again Gen 1 from Jasmine, which was initially the A minus LTS. Nice preferences, nice filly, nice coat color as well. If people care about those things, maybe I'll sell that one to Rage Panther. He's a big coat color guy. Page, this would be Gen 0 RTF, A plus. Nice. May You Never would be from May, which is an LDF-A, I believe. Again, this will be a Gen 2 from a Gen 1 and another Colt on those. Okay, what do we have for names here? Okay, this row I do care. I'm guessing they have to be S minuses, but Lucy is our second best LDF A plus that we had, both in preferences, but probably in racing results. So we will do. It's tough. I'm guessing they're S minuses. Yeah. So we'll do from the Gen 1, which is a Gen 2 first. Shout out to Rage Panther, the endearing hero of the community. Endearing, not enduring. Okay. So another Gen 2 that goes Colt, but we're still getting Fillies with good preferences, so it's tough to complain too much, so it's not going to stop me. These, I think, now we're getting close to where I think we could have S's. Probably not yet based on the scroll bar, but can't rule it out because Juno McGuff is the name of a character in a movie filmed in Minnesota, and there's very few movies filmed in Minnesota, but normally they're generally pretty good, i.e. Fargo, i.e. Grumpier Old Men. But let's do Keep the Faith first. So that was this will be a Gen 2 from Faith, A plus LTS originally. Batting like 1,000 on getting Colts for Gen 2. That just ends the bloodline, basically. Let's see what Juno McGuff's got. Another one. My goodness. Guess I'm not worried about Gen 2 for a while. Probably a good bet that these are all S minuses. We'll rip through them a little bit. Juniper. This is A plus RTF, and then Juniper Blossom would have been the Gen 1 from Juniper. We will pivot here because we've got the illustrious and wonderful K. Kirk. So we'll bring him up and we'll let him take over and talk about what he wants to talk about. What do you want to talk about, K. Kirk? Welcome.
What's up, man? My first reveal. Big day. I know this
Did
is
you already
for you.
Is this sloppy seconds? Am I getting
It is.
Am I getting
Doughboy said to say
information?
hello. Yeah, he said to tell you
Nah,
but,
I bet he did. Let's see if we can find it here because I haven't seen it.
So they're going to be, they're going to already be revealed. But there were two. I had two Foals.
I don't think it will be for me. We'll see this.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to avert my eyes if I can and scroll to the bottom. But
no, there's not that many. You don't have to scroll, but it looks revealed. So there you go. Two right in the middle there.
So you got a Colt and a Colt.
Yeah.
This is what you get for playing chicken and bike games. They monitor your web activity.
Haven't played the chickens in a while, but guilty on the bikes.
So let's see what you did here and
so the one on the left is yeah, sorry.
Yeah. You probably a little discouraged by both of these, I'm guessing.
So the Colts will be fun because, for a small stable, like having more racers is not the worst thing. But yeah, obviously both came S, so I didn't get the grade up, which we'll talk about for the next one was a very real possibility. Maybe not quite as much for this one. The Colt here, I'm actually not super disappointed with. It'll give me something to run. Here may have been fun to have another Philly in LTS where they're maybe lacking a little bit. But yeah, this one should be fun. It should be a sprint leaning, S horse. It's probably similar to the mom, which wasn't a great racer with the S temper, but who knows what temper looks like down the line. We got a couple S pluses here between start and speed between the parents. So yeah, it should be fun.
Do you worry at all about Zeus's either best or second best stat being heart, and that sort of being maybe what on paper is a throwaway stat for the mare?
Yeah.
Or is that?
Yeah,
I don't know what you do there because Gen Zeros are a fairly homogeneous population to begin with, and it's the Gen 1s that you get some variability. So I guess your options are try to find a matching Gen 1 Colt or kind of roll the dice, I guess.
Well, and that'll be more of a conversation for this week to breed with next with the mom. So I took GVG up on his Zeus breed as part of the deal, so that was kind of a no-brainer for me. But yeah, I don't know what to think. I mean, you tell me what to think there. This is what I'm still trying to learn. Like, how does temper flow through? Because, you know, my kind of gut reaction with why Aristotle's Elegance wasn't a great racer was maybe that super high temper, kind of limiting the upside to a run, and then the lower heart obviously also hurting in bigger fields. So I don't know if maybe bringing up heart with a Zeus breed is actually a good thing, and then hoping you don't roll a super high temper, and then maybe you can get a little bit more of that variability in running. But maybe that's not how it works. I don't know. This is new for me, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have best laid plans, and then at the end of the day, it's still somewhat of a roll of a dice,
which
right?
is good.
Like
That's
yeah. I mean, as long as it's realistic range of outcomes, which I think it's proven to be. But yeah, if you put A and S plus heart together, there's still a pretty good chance you could get S heart as a resulting outcome, I think. So
right.
Maybe you quickly catch up on heart with this breed.
Right.
But obviously keeping strengths into strength on start and speed, where again, if you put S plus start into S start, maybe you get an A plus start. Like, it's got to be within the range of outcomes, but it's probably an unlikely one. So then we'll go to All That Jazz, which was a big purchase for you initially, and comes with it some challenges. It was a dominant racer, no question there. Wins 16 times out of 25 starts. Second. 5 more times, so that's 21 out of 25. It's pretty good, first or second.
Yep.
But it comes from 2 1-of-1s.
Yep.
And now you brought in the third 1-of-1 that exists at LTS, and this is a Colt. So from a breeding standpoint, I guess my personal belief is it's an uphill climb here, unless someone wants to just like, I don't care, I'm an A-. I want to breed with something that's at the top for very cheap. But I think you touched on it. You probably just race this one until the wheels fall off.
That will be the plan, assuming it shows some decent level of ability. But like you said, you know, there's certainly a range where it could be bad. But, you know, combining these 2 horses with those traits and a lot of S pluses across the board, you know, I'm hopeful this is at least like a pretty solid S racer. So yeah, the plan will be to run this one wild, which should be a lot of fun.
Well, I think there's a lot of merit to that, especially at LTS, because there aren't that many LTS S Fillies to begin with. So if there's 10 total, and maybe there's 15 after Gen 1, and you go with another top S Colt, you start with a top S, you go with another top S, you would think you would stay there. Whereas at like RDF or even LDF, I would think it's questionable whether you would stay towards the top of the food chain, just because there's so many other options. Someone's going to hit a really good outcome, and you could potentially hit a bad outcome. Like, even if you hit kind of a bad outcome here, I just don't really see it being not a very good horse. And you basically averaged out on preferences everywhere. So nothing bad on preferences. So
yeah, no, I'm happy with it. Obviously the value is with the filly, but I do think, given how small the stable is, also getting another racer, you know, a couple months from now, that'll be pretty fun. So I'm excited for this one for sure. Both of them will be fun to look at, but this is the one where if I'm in big money races, this will be the one. So I'm excited. Are
you looking to add this week at all, or no?
So probably just, I'll definitely keep my eyes on claimers. That's worked out for me. I have 2 S minuses right now that I acquired in the previous season. One from a claimer, one from Ghost. Jet Pilot is very good. S minus, not maybe not amazing, but like very solid. Kepri maybe a notch below that. So those are, keeping the fun out there. I can run those daily. So I'll probably be looking kind of in that sort of range, like good A plus to, mid S minus. Try to keep the budget in check, just given how much we did spend on all that jazz. And obviously needing money now to breed those 2 going forward. And then obviously looking forward for having more horses down the road to race. So I'll probably keep it on the light side in terms of acquiring more, but I'm open to it. I just had an A plus that was claimed away for me 2 days ago. So I claimed it for 20. It was really good, made a ton of money for me the last few weeks. And then I got claimed away for 40. So that one worked well.
That was a good feeling.
Yeah. So that's kind of the game I'm looking to play probably the next month or so. But if, a 1-year-old popped on the market that could kind of fill this gap I have between foal and 3-year-old, I'm not opposed to that either. So
sure. Anything else you want to cover? I don't want to take too much of your time.
No, this was good. I wanted to pop on. It's a fun fun first reveal for me. So I'm excited. Now I got to wait 2 months, which is the annoying part. But
well, you get more in another month, and then more than another month.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it builds off itself,
Yeah,
and hopefully you can only go up from where you revealed this time, right?
That's
So,
true.
like, next time,
That's true.
It should be a pleasant surprise. Hopefully.
I want that S+ Philly from all that jazz for the next one.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Maybe you should use our studs instead. Maybe you
I
can.
might
actually
have
get there.
to. I know I might have
All
to.
right.
Yeah. Do you give an S+ guarantee? You know, some sort of warranty I can have, or
like well, it'd be pretty easy to say you could do like 100% of the stud fee in return if you don't get it, because stud fees are peanuts anyways. Like, maybe that might be a marketing opportunity I'll have to consider.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for having me on.
right.
I appreciate it. Good luck with all your reveals too.
Thank you, sir.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya. All right, I just gotta check. Yeah, I think we might get another sloppy seconds on GBG eventually here as well, which, you know, you'll take whatever you can get from GBG. And then Lacey with a nice reveal as well. Let's pull that one out. And then we'll get back to our reveal. S Philly from Pluto, which is ours. So some of my banter might work. A+ and an S make an S, and actually not the craziest stuff. A+ is actually an LDS as opposed to LTS. So honestly, that is a pretty strong result. Your average would be what, like 1.5 turf, and you get 1. Fine. You lose a half star soft. That sucks a little bit. Roll up on left, and then obviously roll up 2 subgrades, and it stays a Philly. So I would question how good it'd be as a racer, but ultimately it's about as good of an outcome as you can get from an asset standpoint. We all know, as Kamish told us, that Fillies are liabilities once they're retired, so you better not retire this one, Lacey, because otherwise I'm just gonna have to take that liability off your hands potentially. So let's get back into ours, but I'm gonna close some tabs here so we don't get the typical bog down issue, hopefully. Okay, we were in the middle of it. We're still on the S- level, at least for one more. I guess there's a chance this is an S, but I doubt it based on the scroll bar. Again, Juniper Blossom would be a Gen 1 RTF. Oh, we got a Philly for Gen 2. Wow, that's new. Jane A+ LDF. This one we would care about, but this is still going to be a Gen 1 at this point. So Colt, but 8 preferences. Okay, we're gonna tease the grade out here a little bit because it's possible we get there. I don't think so, because I think Full of Jane is an S-, but Full of Jackie Kennedy. So Kennedy would have been the Gen 0. Jackie Kennedy is the Gen 1. This is LDF. We got a Philly, S-. Ivy. We had one of the Ivy variety that we had sold very cheap to Carter from TriStar. Poison Ivy. That was actually really good on the track. But I haven't really followed the bloodline since, but definitely an LTS. You can see a year ago or a season ago, we got a Colt there. It's probably an S-. We got a Philly though. Nice preferences. All right, I probably ruined that these are S- as well. Full of Hope. I think we just auto call this No Hope as a name if it's a Colt. LDF, I believe. Don't tempt me, game. Don't tempt me. Harmony. I think this is LTS. Would be like an A. It's a Colt. All right. We're running out of momentum on the Fillies, guys. This is one we care about, especially since it's an S-. Hazel's A+, 25 total boost, 9 of 9 total preferences. Probably our second best A+ racer, period. Definitely want a filly here. I don't think we've got that many fillies out of Hazel, and this would be a Mercury breed, so this would be a useful asset. Motherfucker. Okay. We're not gonna do grade because if Gold gets an A or S minus, we might just like rage on stream here. Full of grace. Not feeling full of grace with the FULL, but we'll see what we got here. A replica of last season, more or less. Swaps 3 on left for 3 on turf or vice versa. God, this goat one better be an S, guys. Goat's breeds have so far been brutal. And it was probably the best, for sure, mid to long Gen 0 RTF filly. Maybe Gen 0 RTF mid to long piece, regardless of gender. Filly, at least. Fuck, if this is S minus. God damn it. Well, these two hurt. And then we still stay S minus. Damn it. Now we're just going to rip the band-aid off a little bit. LTS. LDF. Okay, Philly. Wow, I just want to make sure it was still possible. RTF. Okay. Now we got two interesting ones, and I'm still going to hate it. If it's almost got to be an S minus because I don't know how. I don't think Daisy would have made an S. So this is going to stay an S minus. Diana is 9 of 9 preference. S minus Gen 0 RTF. That was pretty dominant at 8 furlongs. Claire is the one that we bought after the game started as a ticket. And then we raced it through its, 5-year-old season, maybe even 6. Turned down 2 opportunities to retire because it was pretty lucrative and profitable to race it. So maybe there's a chance this is an S, but the Diana one almost has to be an S minus, I believe. So that's even that in and of itself is kind of disappointing. But if it's Philly, I can live with it. Fuck. Claire, this went to Cossack. This was like the community polling breeding option. If I trusted the community, can I trust that we can get a filly out of it? Okay. That one's going to be very interesting. I'm guessing it's an S minus. So Cossack was probably the best S minus RTF sprinter. Claire would have probably been the second best RTF S minus sprinter. We've seen that doesn't necessarily mean this horse is a sprinter, but that it stays S minus might be a very good racer for a bit. And now with the change that you have to race through the 4-year-olds or through the 3-year-old season, all of a sudden you care a lot more about the racing equity of your fillies. That's a meaningful change. We're probably still in the S minus level, guys. This, even though we don't even know for sure on the roll. Christopher Morel, not a single name. This is one we would have bought after someone else named it. It's just an RTF. I don't even know. Clearly, I don't care, so we'll get a filly. Yeah, RTF. Black Willow. This would be a Gen 1 LDF. Filly. Okay. Autumn. A plus RTF. Gen 0. Filly. Why can't I get fillies where I care? Anna's one of the RTS ones. Low preferences, but is an RTS. And it would have been an A with an S minus. That makes probably an S minus here. I guess it's remotely possible. It's not. Filly. Oh, I must have bred this firm instead this time. So this definitely was an RTS. But I probably just said the hell with it because its soft wasn't very good. And that's exactly what I did. Well, with Mercury did decent there. So we only used Trotsky once this window as opposed to the normal 2. Okay. We've been hurt a lot. Let's get some good news. Alice was a pretty good A plus LTS. Fuck. These two I really care about. This is the, other than Opus 1, it's the best 3-match LTS piece. It is at an A+ level, but so this is the Gen 0, and then this would be the Gen 1 offspring. This is an S-, so we assume it'll stay. Oh, we get an S. Okay, and a filly. All right, 8 preferences. This does not ease the burden of the doomsday scenario of Diana, Goat, Hazel, all RTFs getting Colts this time, but that's nice. And now we know that Ruby, which is an A+, because it's to the left of this one, fucking spoiled, is also going to be an S. So that doesn't suck. At least it's a positive spoil. Can we get... Actually, there's a scenario that this is more useful as a Colt because it would only include one of one, and now with the inbreeding being expanded, if I could put an S Colt on the breeding barn with good preferences and only one of one, I say I do not care about the gender here. Filly's probably preferred, but I actually don't care. That's going to look somewhat attractive in the breeding barn, I think. I don't know. I'll probably use it myself. 8 preferences, LTS Colt. Oh, wow. Shout out to Eddie. Close circuit. We had an A+, and then I totally forgot this one to Blood Moon. He's been trying to get the Opus 1. So Opus 1 is the S-26. It's one of the only 26 total boost horses that exist in the game. And then Blood Moon, which is like a 24. Both LTS. He owned them both. He hasn't got an S yet. He hadn't got a filly yet, I don't think, or at least not a really good one. And then we take an A+ and an S- and get an S. That's a crazy outcome. So we're going to pause for a second because now I want to see what Opus 1 did. Just a minor detour. Chat probably already knows. I'm going to try not to look at anything else in his barn because it's going to be one I want to go back to. So he got an S-, and it's a Colt, and it would have been the same. Oh, he went to Baragos this time. Yeah, it'll be a good racer probably because it should have probably been an S and stayed an S-, but yeah, Opus 1's been a disappointment so far for him. As much as I grieve about Goat and Diana things, I don't think I have as good a grounds to gripe as he does. So now we've got this next row would be S's as well. So Juno is originally an S-, non-one of one LDF. So I would like another filly here. I mean, I want fillies the rest of the way probably, or unless I get an S+ at the top, but I doubt that. Colt. Not good preferences. That's going to be a claimer. That would have went to Persian Bold as part of the deal. So it's an S- with an S- with an S- making an S. So this is another one where the global grade is higher than either of the subgrades, right? Yeah. So notable. Most people wouldn't be disappointed by that, I guess. It's an S from 0 1 of ones. I guess maybe I can't make it a claimer because of that. Or someone will probably claim it because of that. Goat's Head Soup. This is the Jupiter and Goat offspring. It's going to stay an S. It would have went to Mercury, so this is going to be an S from an S- and an S, I think. I definitely want a filly here. Fuck. Man, oh, and then I botched our reveal thing. So distraught that I mean, it's an S Colt from only one of one. It's got 2. Never mind. All right, chat. Oh, and then I probably just ruined whether or not I got an S+, but I at least didn't see it. You guys might have. Oh, fuck. This is the one that was the only chance. No S+, I don't think. if you don't sort by age, it doesn't ruin the grade. Or if you sort by age, well, they still would be in order of the grade, I think, right? Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe we can try that next month. I think I know what you mean. So we got S's. I think it's S's the rest of the way, but we'll go through them real quick. I mean, this is interesting to see an S here because Daisy was an A initially. So this will be a Gen 2, but it makes an S. Good preferences on an S. This went to Persian Bull too. We've got some interesting Persian Bull breeds, guys. Some were really bad initially. You know, in the first like 40 reveals, I wasn't happy with them. But this is an A+ with an S- that went to an S. So this is an S LDF Colt with 0 1-of-1s in it. That doesn't suck, but that's weird. That's 2. We've had an S- and an A+ make an S. We'll take that. Ape. We got an S+ here last time. This one went one-eyed blind. That was what I thought there was a chance at an S+, but this is clearly going to be an S. So I want a filly here. It won't be. Okay. And it even says firm. That doesn't suck. I mean, to the extent people care, I don't know if there's a difference between 0-star firm and 0-star soft. I don't know. But it would have been a true coin flip on whether it was soft or firm. It actually did pretty well on dirt was the median outcome, left was the median outcome, and it's a filly. So now we can take this to Apollo, we can take it to Morningwood, whatever we want. I wanted to bring in one-eyed blind and that stamina, presumably strong finish into LDF and get a filly that I can just do the rest now that we can control some of those parts. Screwed up my scrolling thing again. Is that it though? We might be done. Yeah, we got through them all. So then the one piece we're missing is what did Swift Sapphire do this window? Right dirt. Get an S+. Get an S+. I don't even know where to look. Shit, it got an S, but it's a filly. So basically the same concept as the ape thing. We're buying this one. We took this case the Scuba LDF S for one-eyed blind. Still gets the same. This one actually did better. It should have probably stayed a half-star soft or at least been labeled as LDS. So we'll bring that over eventually. So no S+, but that's probably the most realistic outcome. It's not going to stop me from complaining, but I think it's the most realistic outcome. Did they make it so we can retire Colts yet? Asking for a friend. For those that probably joined a little bit late, I was trying to retire the 3 Colts that we'll put in the breeding barn. At least on paper, 2 to 3 we will be using ourselves this window. So we talked about it a little bit briefly, but a horse with 29 starts and 0 second places, 0 third places, that actually is pretty good at 10 furlongs and probably 10 plus realistically, and didn't breed with a Scuba. So to the extent S- Colts are still desirable, this would be one that's going to be useful, but can we retire it or not? No. Why can I not retire a horse today? I understand the breeding window starts tomorrow. I should be able to retire a horse that's 4 years old today. Not thrilled about that because that was options 2 and 3 of the stream today. So Peeb, I see you're in the chat. Do you want to hop up? We can go through some YSM stuff and more general commentary about either the game, the update, other stables. I haven't reviewed any other stables other than the ones we've seen here. Ian is doing a hot fix for it. Good. Okay. If we ever find out that it's been fixed, let me know because I'm not monitoring Discord. But yeah, we'll try to get Peeb up here if he's still around. I see Crispy Bacon dropped me a link for a horse we can pull up here. Shout out to the lurker Donkey Teeth in the audience. I was curious about that as well. The last point you made. I assumed as much, but I was curious. So Silk Road Stables, this must be Crispy Bacon's stable. He gets an SRDS with actually good preferences. And stays a filly there. Is this Night Saturn? Okay. A+ and an S- goes S. Yeah, there's a couple of them this season. That's more than I can remember. And we had 2 or 3 in our own barn. That's really interesting. What do we have for Night Saturn progeny? Beat needs 5 minutes. What do we got for progeny here? A lot of S's. It's tough for me to know because I don't know these horses that well, if they RDF or RDS. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 S's from an S-. That seems strong. I mean, I'm guessing most of the fillies on that were S's to begin with, maybe, but get a lot of the white coat colors, Night Saturn and white coat. I should know that. Yeah, you see that happen quite a bit. While I'm giving Peep a couple minutes, maybe we'll just thumb through the first couple here. I mean, this is the reason the pause on this one is this is the latest and best Gen 0 Colt to be used in the breeding barn. It was only there for the first time last season. Dominant racer on the track. One of very few Colts that has preferences at RDS. So I'm guessing of these S's, basically everything will bring Peep up in 2 seconds here. I see he's in the backstage. Just want to thumb through them. I'm guessing most of these will be RDF S fillies. There's one. Too many tabs. There's 2. Oh, well, that's an S-. That's nice. Maybe that was the one people were talking about. Sowers had a good one. Someone dropped that in the chat earlier, maybe. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's not like Sowers has any RDS to work with in-house anyways, with Doc Holiday. So I assume that's where this foal will go to immediately. Stays an S filly that you can take to Doc. That's pretty nice. Another one that goes up, it is RDF, but S- and S- goes to S. That's 2. That's pretty strong. Another 3. Okay. Yeah, that would have been within the range of outcomes for sure. An S, but actually Gen 1, that makes it Gen 2. Same thing here. Actually, yeah, so Sowers had the good one earlier we looked at, and this just got to be one that he probably doesn't feel great about because it's definitely his best Gen 0 asset, with maybe his second best Gen 0 asset. That offspring it's an S. You can't really expect more, but he probably doesn't need a Colt there. I don't know. We'd have to ask Sowers on how he feels about the gender on that one. Swift Diamond. Okay, those were what we were kind of expecting, is S with an S- makes an S, but there were a few S- ones. And here's this is the one we looked at. That's crazy. Those are fun. I wish we get more of those. I wish we got some to the downside too, not just up. I want to see like 2 S- make like an A just once. It'll probably be my barn first, or if it's not my barn, it'll be the next gentleman we bring up. So welcome to the stage for the first time, at least on this stream, Pete. What's up, Pete?
Hello. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I've been better. This has been a brutal round for us for sure.
Let's pull it up. Yeah, I mean, it's tough for us. We're always going to have a couple things that break right and a couple things that break poorly. So while I would have wanted more, we got some really nice assets. No S pluses, but that's to be expected. I'm gonna go back to list mode if you don't care. I don't like the grid
Nah,
mode.
go
These
for
are
it.
all revealed anyways. And then let's try to do oldest age 1 since we can't do oldest age 0. Let's pull up a couple of these.
Yeah, so I think
Is this
I'll
your
name
California loved one, or is this
No, it's the only filly that we've got, and it's SoCal.
it's SoCal's? Yeah,
Fuck all that.
that's not great. Yeah, that's not great.
No, I tell you what, shout
Lager.
out to him. He's had an unbelievable breeding window this time. I believe he's got the Delta foal from Commish. I think he bought the womb.
He does.
Bred that. Yeah,
He did.
bred that with Morning Woods. They've got an S plus filly.
Did they?
Mm.
Nice. Now I know I don't need to breed with Morningwood because I'm already not there. I guess it's a filly, so I still could. But yeah, this one you had a nice piece here with polychrome is like kind of like a Delta or ape equivalent, and then you got a strong S there probably, and stays an S, gets a Colt, loses its preferences. Wow, from one star to 0. Yeah.
Yeah, painful. I think it is the polychrome blood in that. If you've got an
Pull 'em
because
back,
there's a
the
firm,
firm.
yeah, because there's a firm horse down there. I reckon that doesn't help you.
That would make sense. Do you know what I assume, yeah, it would have been in the range of outcomes from the breeding report, but do you remember offhand if you were supposed to get screwed like this in softer firm?
I'll have a look. I think it was a wide range. I reckon it could have flipped firm. Let me have a little look. Can we run breeding reports now? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I was disappointed I can't retire some stuff, but it sounds like we're working on it. So
Yeah, what were your thoughts on all of that? Look, I think you can do breeding reports. I think they were going down kind of. They were trying to fix the right stuff. I just think they did it the wrong way and far too quickly. I was rushed, really rushed.
yeah, it's the timing. We went from a Friday afternoon news drop to a Sunday night news drop, which I don't think is the right approach. And part of it is, and I wasn't in the chat, even if I would have been home, I probably wouldn't have been in the chat. But the game notes themselves, or whatever we want to call them, don't articulate why on anything. It just says this is what's changing. So if we're going from a minimum breeding retirement age of 3 to 4, I want to know what's driving that. Are they worried about horse population growth and not so much on the user growth, which would be valid if that's what they're worried about? Are they just saying, we've heard from the community that people want their cake and they want to eat it too, so they want to be able to race the entire 3-year-old season, which has all the majors, and then not be behind someone that decided to retire? I always thought it was kind of an eloquent decision point. If you want to race the 3-year-old season, then you could potentially be behind in the breeding barn. But that was the biggest change, right? At least as far as that's coming. Or didn't you even think that was the biggest one?
No, I thought, I didn't like the age 4 thing. I just don't like it at all. I think they might scale back on that now. It sounds like they're doing a bit of a U-turn on the whole thing, which is probably for the best in my view. I like a breeding window. I like the fact that it wasn't all season, so I don't think that was the right thing to do. Albeit I can see why they'd want to do that. I wonder how many quiet complaints they got, from people who missed the breeding window. And we don't see that. I wonder how many people turned around and said, "Fuck, I can't breed now. I didn't realize."
Yeah, and I like that we ended up in the spot of, even though I would have been ready to do it today, I took today off. I know others probably would have done the same too, is I like that it doesn't start on day 1. I don't know that it needs to be, personally, in my own belief, it doesn't need to be longer. I think we could have started on day 2 and gone to day 8, which I think is what we're doing this season. And then next season, they're talking about extending a couple days. I think there's something to be said about the tighter the window, the more game theory comes into play, the more you're forced to make a decision. Whereas if you have the entire month, people don't even really pay attention to what breeds are happening because they're just trickling in. Whereas if we only had 3 days to breed, you would be seeing stuff in the breeding bot all the time. You would maybe have to react based on, oh, it looks like Born to Run's going to sell out super quickly, or Eclipse is going to sell out super quickly. If I want to use that, I need to use it now. Like, I actually think that is a feature, not a bug.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think they went and fixed something that wasn't broke with that personally. But hey ho. And then age 4, I just don't get the age 4 thing again. That's a sledgehammer to crack a nut for me. I think they were trying to stop RD having 2 bites of the apple, being able to breed and race in that championship race, and then retire straight after it and hit the barn and be able to breed. And I get that, but that, like, the obvious fix for that wasn't to make every horse age 4. It was to move the RD race just down the line.
Yeah, could you have done 2 majors a week just in the 3rd and the 4th week of the season or something like that? Like, I think that would potentially work. I think what you would say is like, well, then your first week is pretty boring. But honestly, the first week's not boring because everybody's trying to figure out what they have for their 2-year-old racers. They're trying to figure out what their breeding plans are. So if you assume that there wasn't a major in the first week because everybody's concerned about race selection, kind of understanding your horse and then breeding, like, we probably don't need a major in the first week of the season. I think that's fair. If anything, this would be weird for me to say because I don't own RDF, but in one sense, they actually are slightly at a disadvantage because there is a lot going on the week that they're qualifying for a major. Now, if your horse is a 3-year-old, you should know what it is. It shouldn't take you long to run the horse, but there's a lot of other stuff going on this week for sure.
Yeah, and I get the point of not having to concentrate the entire game into 1 week. Like, if you remember this time last month, it was absolutely hectic. Like, the breed bot's going, sales are happening, we're revealing everything. It was hectic. I do think a day's grace is a really good idea. I think that was a solid change. The rest of it, I mean, look, the team. I love that the team are trying stuff. I love that they, like. There's part of me that thinks great. They're not sitting on something that's fine. They're trying to make it better and better, and that it's marginal gains and continuous improvement and all of that. But I don't know. I think they've just misstepped on this one.
Yeah, how do you feel about the schedule? I don't know if I've heard your thoughts on the schedule, but I've heard several other people's thoughts on it.
I haven't gone deep into it, to be honest. I don't tend to mind the schedule. I think there's always somewhere to race. I've just missed our first race of the season, actually, so let's have a look what we did. It was our first ever RT race, actually. We've never owned an RT horse before. Let's have a quick look. Oh, no. Dog shit. Christ.
You get it from the JJ? It must be bad. Or Mr. B? You're getting horse from the wrong people.
I don't think I did. There were 7th out of Jesus. We're going to have to go short of that horse, aren't we? No, it was a S horse with an A+ making a A+. So Filly, so we thought that's too good to turn down.
Yeah, Rolos's schedule is very bad. I mean, the Abominable Snowman put some, I thought, concise and constructive criticism in the chat when they asked for it about the schedule. And I just think the biggest disconnect is on claimers and then, to a lesser extent, where we're at on achieving their own goal of having global grade not be a factor in race lobbies, whether that's grade restricted races or allowances awarding weight based on the global grade or subgrade differences there. We have more allowances than any other race type, which that in and of itself probably wouldn't be a bad thing, but you would hope a lot of those are driven by, if you've got 1 win in the last 3 days, you carry 2 extra pounds. If you got 2 wins in the last week, you carry an extra pound. Those types of allowances are allowances I think everybody would welcome. But if the team is expressly stated they're trying to move away from grade being a factor in race selection, then I think we need to move somewhat faster on that. Like, there's a lot of races. There's like 444 of 4,000. So 10% of allowances are the ones that give you like the 3-pound edge over the subgrade above it. So if it starts at A, then the A would have 10 pounds removed. A plus would be 7 pounds removed. So that 3-pound advantage. There's 440 of them, or 44 of them. I think there should probably be 0 of those ones. And I think there's so much of an appetite for claimers. I mean, we just revealed 65 horses. Honestly, the Colts, I'll probably just race in claimers, because I don't know that you can get a marketable return by just selling them on the marketplace. You just have to keep continuing to undercut with the other people undercutting, whereas they're probably good racers. At least race them, make some money, make some crown, and then once they prove how good they are, then they can get claimed. So I think flipping the ratio of claimers to allowances and total race count would be good, and then definitely more high entry free races across the board, but certainly claimers. And I think Fibbit acknowledged that the team's looking at claimers or high dollar fee claimers from the lens of after dark and seeing questionable fill rates and horses racing there. But that's a big function of, if you race the after dark races, you've taken 2 days off racing, not 1. So
yeah, I've seen Rollo in the chat saying 20 maidens, hardly any claimers. Like, there is some low hanging fruit and some easy wins that they just seem to fumble and ignore. I do think I had a look at some of the juicing, which looks pretty good. Like, some of the Derby juicing that's gone into the races looks much more appetizing than it was last season. I don't know. Look, we tend to race in the graded races. The graded races tend to have reasonable-ish coverage. If we're struggling at the top to race, then that really is a problem. You know what I mean? Like, those S horses should always have a place to race.
why are you hating on the bees, Peeb? Why do you want bees to not have a place to race?
Fuck him. No, I don't. No, I don't really look. I think every horse needs a place to race. That's the aim of a good schedule. And having people race suboptimally is also probably a good schedule. Like, you don't want everyone to have the 7 furlong firm race that they desperately need every single day. Like, that isn't good scheduling either. I think there's a middle ground. I think some of it is down to what we're kind of talking about when it comes to the majors, the qualifiers, injecting a bit of personality into the schedule and making some of the races, like, trying to achieve something out of winning them. It feels a bit soulless at the minute. Like, it's just racing, and then the qualifiers are a little more competitive, but it's just a series of individual races, and I'd like it to evolve out of that going forward.
Yeah. Getting back to your horses here quick, since the people have been staring at the screen at them. I do want to look at the California Love one. I'll just make one pot shot on the no regret one. Like that, I guess that's what you get for not using your own Colt. No faith in General Duke, and you get what you pay for at that point.
I actually think the breeding report was probably better. We had a look, obviously, at Ruthless Duchess, which didn't come out brilliantly on the track, and it made sense as to why when it got revealed, because it was SS minus Heart, which was what drove it as to an S plus. So it probably barely got an opportunity to show that. Like, would have been interesting if it had raced on Saturday's Derby, whether it had been in the contention. Yeah, I mean, look, Elvis retired. It won 3 Kentucky Derbies. We had to chuck in Elvis. We were looking forward to this breed. A bit disappointed with the outcome. Preferences are suboptimal. Disappointing it's not an S plus, but hey.
Yeah. This one had been on the screen the longest. This is a useful asset made in
house.
Yeah,
looks good. 3 left, 3 dirt. You can't argue with that. Again, disappointing that it's not an S plus.
Really? Or S plus, yeah.
Yeah, if it was an S plus Colt, that would have been something. We would have been delighted with an S plus Colt with 6 out of 6 on left and dirt. That's a pretty good result. But yeah, just not a good day for us today, unfortunately.
So let's get into the 2 that would be good if they stayed, I guess, or have some interesting things about them. So this one goes to SoCal, which is a minority shareholder in YSM. Well, I don't even know if he's minority, but he's a shareholder in YSM. So this was initially his horse, California Love, and as part of kind of contributing it to the stable, he got a couple breeding decisions and the resulting foals from them. So he took this to Morningwood. big swing. The last big swing he took, he went to Rose of Zion. That was a Colt, I think. So this one he's stoked about for sure. Probably wanted an S plus, but at least you get the Filly there, and somehow you get a 2-star firm out of 2 1.5s. You pay for it in the dirt a little bit, I guess, but yeah, nothing wrong with that. And certainly, if you guys are trying to make inroads in other archetypes more prominently than you have, having a Filly at LDF would have been a perfect way to do it. You got one coming up here, but what time are you guys going to list this so that I can snipe it on the marketplace?
No, we tend to transfer those over at stupid cost just to make sure that exactly doesn't happen. Yeah, look, we've got some decent LDS coming in, not just in the crop just born, but Empire Rose, which is the first Rose of Zion filly, or the first one by age. So that one races today for the first time. We've got a couple of other nice LDFs. I think is Strider come of age this time. Yeah, and we're actually stronger in LDF in age 2 than we are in LDS, which is a bit weird for us. But yeah, we'll hopefully see a fast track on in the Derby next season, and we might be competitive. We might have a couple who compete. Strider and Obsidian Noir, I like both of them.
Do we know the forecast yet, or did we not get that until late?
Good question.
We might even already know the forecast. Let me see if I can find it.
If you go into tracks, I think that's the easiest way of doing it. Tracks, Churchill Downs.
Probably true. I was just going to go to race type majors, but you're probably right. We'll get there at the same time. 40% for dirt this week, but that's the only one we know. What did you do here? Explain, make it make sense to me. You went to, because there are scuba LDF Colts that exist. Balthazar even has one. You didn't have to use ours. You took perfectly good, perfectly usable LDF Filly and went LDS with it. Is that to try to bring Astro to LDS then? Is that what the goal was?
No, Astro's we've already got Bad Polly, which has brought Astro to LDS. I think we might have another one actually. Monochrome is a really good horse actually, so that is age 3 today. That's One Eye Blind with Polychrome. We're more bothered about stacking stamina on stamina with these. LDS has got a horrendous lack of stamina really. Like there's only 2 horses at Gen 0 that had S plus stamina, and that is One Eye Blind and Rock of Cashel. So we sacrificed the temper. Yeah, we sacrificed temper on this and went for the Hail Mary. We missed on pretty much everything. We got a Colt, got an S, got a firm. Low preferences on left and dirt. Yeah, pretty shocking all around, really.
Well, the stamina might play at LDF as well, obviously, because normally you only have Scuba Offspring putting a ton of stamina out there, but it'd be interesting to keep track of. I mean, I like what you've done with Polychrome better than what Commish himself has done with Delta, and the times Delta's been bred in an enviable way. He's typically sold the womb on those, including this time. So let's check. I want to check that one out, and we can kind of get back into the rest and dive into other subjects or whatever you want at that point. But if we got to scroll down to like 40 or something to get to Commish, I think 38 holding strong.
The roasted Commish. Oh, it's a gorgeous horse, this one. If you want to pick up a snipe transfer, this is the one to snipe.
Yeah, nice preferences too. That's probably better preferences than it even should have had, I think, if I know the 2 horses well enough.
Yeah,
I don't think Morningwood has the best preferences. Yeah.
It's about as good as it could have been, yeah.
Well, I guess only kind of rolled up under. The rest is averaging effect in place. But yeah, this will be interesting. And I guess I don't know the population of LDF S pluses from this kind of 0-year-old crop. The other place to look, if it's not you and it's not us, typically ends up being Balthazar. He hasn't had one yet, at least before this season. Did he get one today? Did he get one today? Got 2 today. One on the soft side, and Mill Street got him an S plus. Congrats to Balthazar. Good guy, for sure. Good guy, and yeah, has probably as good a Gen 0 workable pieces to make an S plus as anybody outside of GVG potentially. So his Rocket Cashal breed was slightly better than yours this time. Couple 1-of-1s in use here though, so, and it's a Colt, so I mean, maybe would you use something like this? I guess I can turn it back to you. You're at LDS. It's got ticket window, it's got scuba. Is this something you want to breed with your LDS fillies?
Just scroll down just so I can see the bottom of the bloodline, so I can. So we're 2 1-of-1s, both of the ones that are native to LDS. I mean, this is actually why the 3 generation, 4 generation conversation was such an important one for me, because if it was 3 generations, then on that right hand side, all of those PFPs fall off, so you can go straight back into a General Duke, a Elvis, or well, you can bring it to Barbarity of ours if it's a Colt, obviously. So this horse could instantly go into Barbarity. And then, yeah, I would definitely use that, but that is kind of nerfed by the 3 versus 4. And I think for the betterment of the game, I think it probably is better being 4 than 3. Just frustrating. Like for me, I don't like information changing in the middle of a strategy.
I agree with you there. I guess the only point that I would concede on this one is there are very few cases, and I think you are an example of one, unfortunately, but there are very few cases where this change from 3 to 4 in the inbreeding was going to penalize someone for something they've already done. In most cases, like you've either cycled through different sires or you were never going to cycle through different sires anyways. The only people that really got screwed by that are people that would have bought Colts from 2 1-of-1s or Gen 1 Colts that had 2 1-of-1s in it, type of thing like that, which I think you guys did do. So I think that's fair. But I mean, ultimately, I think it is what the team had always expressed was their intent. They're giving us at least a month before it takes effect, although I don't think it could have really had a negative effect in the next month period of time anyways. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how LTS, LDS, some of these with less LTF in general play out when inbreeding becomes a bigger concern. And then Mill Street, would he have gone to Fowler Fields with this one? Oh, Morningwood put out a couple more S pluses this time around. This is nice. This is like, yeah, scuba. So you think on paper you've got derby distance figured out. Gets a filly there as well. That's a useful piece. Anything else you want to chat about? Anybody else's stable you want to rip through? Any more disappointments on YSM you want to hone in on? Snowball got an S, but it's a Colt again.
Yeah, they're all Colts, so we've got everything but the one SoCal is taken as a Colt from our 6 other S fillies that bred. They all gave us Colts, which is a real kick in the teeth. We got some nice stuff in the lower grades, in the S minuses. We've already sold one, which came out, which full of Imperatrice. Henrietta is the gift that keeps on giving. Jealous. I keep looking interestingly at all these S minus and A plus making S horses. I'm waiting for our day in the sun on that, so hopefully that comes soon.
I think those 2 this time was the first we'd ever pulled off like that, and I think it could probably only happen if you're using this. I don't know that I want to concede matches as an ongoing effect, but it seems like the horses that had temper because they had matches are the ones putting out these kind of crazier outcomes for sure. But yeah, 9 of 9.
I'm getting more convinced. Not convinced. I'm becoming more worried about matches in a way. I've kind of gambled away from matches. I'm like you. I thought matches disappeared the day they got converted into horses, and everything was on the face of the attributes and all of that. I'm just seeing a few things that makes me think actually they might still be there.
Well, I know Rage Panther thinks they're there, so he's got to be right.
There's a really nice, I won't say which horse it is, but I've seen a really nice horse out there that I'm going to have to go and make a buy for, and that is Match Central.
On the marketplace or just like it exists somewhere?
No, I had a little look before I came on stream about horses that I would potentially like. I tend to go to my favorite breeders and have a look at what they've produced, and there's 1 or 2 which have come out, and this horse must be like, what is it, second gen? Must have 4 Gen Zeros in it, and they've all got matches, like serious matches, and it's created a monster. So I'm gonna have to go after it.
Soulmates, he's got to have an S plus or 2 by now, doesn't he? He's like, yeah, just a 2-year-old. He's got the best stable, hands down. I don't know who needs to hear it. If Kamish didn't even have him in his top 5, I don't think, but it's turned into, and I think this part you'd probably even agree with, is it's definitely proven to be somewhat of a volume game, and he's got more volume than literally anybody. I think he's got close to as many fillies as the big brain conglomerate combined. So
Well, if you include his secondary stable, Breaking Bad, then he's definitely the best.
then he does for sure. Yeah. No S pluses for OEB yet, but he didn't have the fillies to work with, I don't think.
He's kind of playing the softly game, and he will get the Rainer Durun Oko, or whatever, however you
That
pronounce
was
it.
a nice horse. Yeah,
I like that. I couldn't believe. Do you see the reveal? And it was A+ stamina.
Yeah, right there. S plus finish must be good within A+ stamina, I would think. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about a little bit last night, is that I think the sooner people just accept that what you think stamina would do for horses is really kind of what finish is doing, and stamina helps actually at a longer distance than 10 furlongs probably. Then you can get your head around it. So all roads leading to the Kentucky Derby through Eclipse is actually probably more intact than I would have given it credit for last time. But if you didn't catch my stream last time, you should go back. It was a pretty good cheap shot about solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, and as opposed to being a path to the Derby, actually blocking something like an eclipse would. But
yeah, I did. Once you mentioned you made a cheap shot, I did go back and have a look at it. It did make me smile. Look, I just like people saying the word eclipse all the time, as you know.
Yeah, it's free marketing for sure. This one is nice.
But yeah, I probably agree with you. I do think the evidence is showing that stamina might actually be one of the most overrated stats out there, and I think we've all focused on it. Tough one, really.
Ooh, I do need to get into the Shockwave breeds just to see, but I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise to see. I guess this isn't the strongest Gen 0 filly. With Shockwave makes an S plus with Bucco preferences. That's a nice one there. I'm gonna have to dial into that one a little bit later to see. I wanted to see what Shockwave had done.
Yeah, have you made? I suppose you haven't looked enough to make any conclusions around whether Gen 1 versus Gen 0 colt breeding is producing the better outcomes.
So I will plug a different old stream of mine. I think it's labeled the stream. All of our videos are available on YouTube. I did comparing and contrasting breeding reports for both Primetime and Shockwave. So Shockwave is an offspring from Primetime, with like 3 sets of Gen 0 and then Gen 1 fillies on our side. Now, I didn't do RDF because we don't have RDF. But when you lay the breeding reports on top of each other, like I said, again, K. Kirk joined that time. When I got to Primetime Shockwave comparison, it would have been after K. Kirk. I should bookmark my videos, but I don't. So it's kind of in the latter half of the stream. But you can tell which horse between Shockwave and Primetime is even better, even if the stack grade says the same. Like, you can tell which one has a higher radial. And the conclusion is, the TLDR is, they were not that different across the board. So that's why I was surprised when you knew that you had Hot Sauce coming, which I think is another prime time, which she'll probably hit the breeding barn this window. And that's the other unintended consequence of changing to 4 that remind me to come back to you if I miss it, is, yeah, Hot Sauce is an S plus. Everybody can see that. When you switch the minimum retired breeding age to 4, you're actually unintentionally giving a benefit to any colt that is at least 2 now, because they can at least 3 now. So if I want to retire our 3-year-old colts, I can put them in the breeding barn, and they will not have competition from the crop behind it, right? So if Hot Sauce hits the barn now because he's 3 years old, anything 2 now can't hit the barn next season. He gets a full free season to himself against any other competitors. Like, that's the unintended consequence that I really don't love from it.
Yeah, I thought I had the exact same thought last night, exact same thought process. Interesting.
Were you using hot sauce in the thought process as well, or we just both united against Kamish, or what?
No, I couldn't give a fuck about RD.
I agree. You'll never catch me there. I will at least
No,
look to see what this breed is, but not churro. That's not surprising then at that point.
Yeah, I mean, look, Shockwaves. I've had a quick glance at Shockwaves results. I mean, I think it's bred like 6-7 S plus horses, so it's definitely a monster of a breed of horses you'd expect. I haven't compared it against the original prime time, so that's probably what I'm going to do after I dive off here.
Churro gets another S plus, but again, another one you would probably expect at that point. The preferences actually look pretty good here because you've got She's the Boss to bring them up, and actually got a really good soft outcome. It should have been kind of 1, and it gets 1.5 there. So Secretariat gets his second S plus, although certainly paid for it this time. Any other things you want to chop up while I've got you? Otherwise, I don't need to take too much of your time.
No, I'll
I'm
dive
not
off.
kicking you off either.
Yeah, no. It's I can hear the missus just turned up with the kids, so it's probably just as well before they start jumping in front of my screen. No, I'll catch you next time, mate. Cheers for having me. Good to finally join you on screen.
For sure, I'll have to hit your way or sometime soon too. So probably not when Ian's on it for obvious reasons, but sometime. So yeah,
good stuff, mate. Cheers. Bye.
All right, let's see what we got in anything in chat here. Let me try to pull that up. Anthony Davis or Xanthony Davis, ex-Anthony Davis. I'll try to grab those 1 second. Take a look at them. Might get a touch laggy here because I have to pull the stream up on my computer as well. Okay, I've got them. Full of Chasing Pow. I recognize the horse. Let's see what we got. Indian Wells and Chasing Pow, an S and an S minus makes an S, and is a Colt, but pretty solid preferences there. Born to Run in there. Yeah, this should be a pretty solid race around the track. Takes 2 seasons to get there, but looks good. Got GVG messaging me. He is about to join as well to further bail me out here. Let's see what else we got. We got our Stimmy for the racing season. I'm guessing it's my notification. We dare try to figure out what it says. We can look. We'll show. You can figure it out if you wanted to anyways. 38K, so about $500. That doesn't suck. It's the lowest we've had, and it's the lowest race volume we had. So even though the fees were higher across the board, we knew our Derby stimulus was going to be lower. I thought we'd get a little more than $500, but it is what it is. And most people would be ecstatic with $500. Ice and Dice, shout out to you. Thank you for that. So while we wait on GVG, we do have actually, I think, some interesting, we're going to use them. So this is not even me telling you to use them. But some Colts that can potentially retire and go to the breeding barn. They obviously can't breed till tomorrow, but I certainly have plans to use 2 of them, if not 3 of them, depending on the reveal. Youngest age 3. Just don't want to get the wrong ones. No, I do need to do youngest age 4. And racing. We've got GVG in the background, so I'm just going to quickly, and I'm always good with trying to honor his time. We'll do these 3 quick. These are, well, we can bring them up because one of them we bought from him. What's up, GVG?
Stins, how are you, my friend?
Not too bad, although, I mean, this is twice in one stream I've been sloppy seconds to Doughboy, so my pride's a bit hurt, but
well,
your time is valuable nonetheless.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. What did you get? Did you get a couple S pluses, like 6 of them this time, or just a few less than that?
A few less than that.
Let's see what we got. I don't think I've seen anything from yours. I was trying to avoid some people's stables on purpose, but some breeding has been hard to ignore. Let's do oldest age 1. That one's nice. That one's nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Three of. Had you had one? Had you sold one, or did you only have one before this week?
Only one that was. Well, I have 2 that are turning 2 today. And
Oh,
I
okay.
had
Yeah, never mind. I'm
Tony's-
looking at Fillies.
And then
Yeah.
Tony's matriarch. That's 1, and then so yeah, this breeding session 3 S pluses.
Which, I mean, as much as I complain about my own outcomes, I don't have anywhere near the number of Gen 0 S's to start with that you did. So it's certainly something that is fair for you to expect. So we've got a Shockwave breed, which I need to get into later on in the stream, and then Spirit of Ecstasy, which is, yeah, the rank 61 fine filly at RDF. That's
Yep.
amongst the best Gen 0 RDF assets you got. Is that a good
So
preference role, or is
she's
that?
now 2. It's a good preference role, yeah, especially on the condition. Yeah, so she's created, Spirit of Ecstasy has created 2 S pluses out of her 5 offspring now. So happy to see that. King Spirit was her first, which was turned out to be a great horse for me on the track, and produced a nice foal for me on her first offspring.
So before we get to the other 2, talk me through a little bit of like how you navigate prime time and bloodlines at RDF going forward. I talked a little bit about it with P, but neither of us competed RDF. So when I had seen Shockwave become available, I also had Nudie at Hot Sauce, such as an S plus that's 3 today as well. And
Yep.
I personally was confused. And again, I just touched on it if you weren't listening in the stream. I did like a very detailed deep dive of comparing and contrasting breeding reports from using Shockwave and Primetime, with the conclusion they weren't that different. The evidence is very good. Like, people can check that out if they'd like. So I was surprised Shockwave got as much run as it did, particularly with Hot Sauce coming. So how do you feel about that statement, and like how do you feel as you're going to move forward with not running into inbreeding problems, or just always having the best of, I guess, the Primetime bloodline?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, one of the big things was and this is obviously for just me personally, it's not applicable to others, but like I already had a bunch of exposure to Primetime from previous breeds. So like, what it puts me in a different kind of a ballpark than other people that are just looking at them and trying to make a decision on what to do and who to breed with. So like I've already have, I think up to this point before this breeding season, I want to say I had 7 Primetime offspring. And so Shockwave was, yes, he's from the Primetime lineage, but the other thing is he's got the mare there, Lolly's Legend blood in him as well, which is introduces a totally different beast. Outcomes wise, breeding reports wise, very similar. I did see Shockwave brings a little bit more on the speed side of things and on the stamina side of things. Yeah, Primetime appeared to bring a little bit more on start and heart. I believe that was your findings as well.
Correct.
And so for me, I'm really trying. Those are like my 2 probably most prominent attributes that I'm paying attention to at this point in the game. And for my stable is speed and stamina, and then looking to maybe layer in finish and heart later to ones that are lacking in those 2. But I think those are kind of your big derby distance, championship distance type of attributes that matter the most. I was actually talking with Doughboy this morning about, people often kind of like to debate and get in discussions of, if you could pick one attribute to get your big up roll, your wick roll on, which one would it be? And, I think hands down for me would have to be speed. Knowing what I know now with horses that have been revealed, and then going back and looking at outcomes on the track from those horses, the horses that had really high speed, and you can tell by radials a lot of times. But like, Cyber Gaia was one that she revealed SS minus speed for me. And, one of the things that I've noticed about the horses that get a good wick in speed is like they can win anywhere, relatively anywhere. But they have a wider, array of distances that they can be competitive and win in. Whereas, if you have a horse that has really strong wick and stamina or really strong wick and start, yes, that's a great role, and yes, they can perform well on the track, but they also are a little bit bottlenecked in where they can perform well because of that attribute. Whereas I think speed kind of carries over to more distances and gives you kind of that ability to then kind of stack on specific attributes to attack specific distance preferences. So for me, going back to the original question, why go back to the primetime blood again? This has Lolly's Legend blood in it, and so it is different. It is unique in that sense. But B, I think just foundationally, this is like kind of giving me the best opportunity to get some high wicks on speed, which I think is like, always valuable going forward in breeding, because if you have speed, then you can layer anything else on top of that to create your more specialized horse. So I don't have any like major concerns about inbreeding. Sorry, I don't have any major concerns about inbreeding. I mean, depending on who, the filly I use, there's still always, 2 other one-of-ones that I can go to. There's always Doc that I can go to and sprinkle in the RDS side of things. And then we've already seen, I mean, there's a bunch of strong bred horses that don't have any one-of-ones in them at all that are coming into, the game and being bred that will be retired one day. And we'll see what their reveals are. And listen, I'm not afraid to take an S plus filly back to an S Colt if it's unique and it makes sense from a lineage standpoint. And it has attributes matching the goals that I have for that filly. Like, I don't think that you always have to breed up from the Fillies grade. I think that's a misconception.
Yeah, 2 things I would hit on there is we don't have the S plus Fillies to prove that exact statement out. But for our S Fillies, we've used S minus Colts more often than that we've used S or S plus Colts. So I agree with you in that sentiment, just at a subgrade lower. And then to your point on speed potentially being the best grade, I just want to drill in on that. Is that, in this case, I think I know the answer, but is that unique to RDF in this case, or is that at all archetypes you think speed is like the one attribute that you need to be chasing, if at all possible?
I mean, I'm not in every archetype, so I can't say with confidence on the archetypes that I'm not in, but from the archetypes that I play in, I have a sneaky suspicion that speed is going to be one of those things that if you really want to compete at the highest levels, like it has to be present. And then if you're, depending on what kind of horse you're breeding for, then you sprinkle on the other attributes that most complement whatever you're trying to create, on top of speed. So if you're looking to create a top level sprinter, then you're stacking start on top of speed and so on and so forth. I think heart and temper are something that's kind of to be determined where those really fall into the importance category. I think that will kind of shape itself a little more as we continue to get to see results and then look back and get reveals and then start to kind of put 2 and 2 together. I know that's one of the favorite things for me on retiring horses is saying, okay, now that we see what's under the hood, let's actually go back now and look at some of our race results, look at some of our morning line odds against these other horses that have also retired and revealed, and get a better idea of like, how is the game, which is the most important part of all of this, how is the game interpreting these 2 horses on paper? What outcomes is it, predicting as the most likely outcomes, which is the morning line odds? And then what actually is happening historically with these horses on the track? And then, I found, just through that process, find some common themes that say, this is common and prevalent enough for me to pay attention to moving forward. So like one of those things was speed. notice horses that had higher speed tended to be able to win across larger swaths of distance preferences. Also, horses with higher speed have pulled better morning line odds, however much you look into those. I look at them, they're just like another data point. They're like everything for me.
Yep.
I don't put everything into one, but I put a little bit into all of them, and you know, kind of ready to add weight or lighten weight from anything along the way as we go. But yeah, I mean, I think that speed over time, I think that speed's going to be one of those, like, it has to be there unless you're only trying to create a really kind of distance preference specific horse.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff in there to chew on. I guess the one thing I would potentially push back on, and why I asked about, is this universal to all archetypes or specific to RDF? And I can use an archetype I know you compete in, is that at LDF, even if I thought speed was uniformly the best stat for all archetypes, is it not advantageous to pursue other stats that are less common at a given archetype? So at RTF, that would certainly be pursuing speed because it doesn't really exist there. But at LDF, one, you've got the Kentucky Derby as a 10 furlong race, and the qualifiers being from 7 to 11 furlongs. But two, you really missed stamina and finish at LDF. So as opposed to this never-ending pursuit of speed at some archetypes, I think there's merit to pursuing the stats that aren't predisposed to exist there.
Absolutely. I mean, I know, like, I don't play in the sandbox of left turf, but you know, I go over and run some of my left dirt horses on left turf whenever it kind of has to happen, you know, racing options wise. And like left turf, I know, like, doesn't have much sprinters at all in it. And so, yeah, like, that'd be the classic case where you breed to everyone else's weakness, because, you know, the archetype as a whole is weak in start, and so in speed probably as well. And so, you know, that's one where it makes sense to go that route. And then obviously, like you said, if you're breeding specifically to try and create a Derby champion, then yes, that's when, you know, I think the stamina, I'm not sure how much finish comes into Derby distance types of results yet, but I know that stamina is an important one. But I think speed, like, I still think you have to have speed, you know? And
Yeah.
so my thought process and logic is like, well, if we know that one of these, you know, 90% of the time has to be present for, you know, that horse to result in the outcome that you want of winning a race, no matter the distance, like, I'm going to go ahead and try and breed for that. And then if I get a good roll somewhere else on top of it, great. But I almost look at speed as like a base ability of sorts. And, you know, I'm a big believer in having the highest base ability you can and then stacking on top of that and creating like specialized monsters, you know?
All fair there. Maybe just one pushback question on that is, do you at all think it's possible that speed is just not balanced, and or other stack grades would need to be pushed up if we thought that, you know, speed is overpowering something else? Do you feel as race math is balanced, or we can't know because we don't really know the impact of temper or heart?
I think it's probably too early to say we know. You know, I think that it's kind of shown that horses that have good speed typically are kind of like always in the race. A lot of the kind of the, you know, the middle of the race, depending on the distance of the race, you know, the middle of the race, you see some horses have that big drop back. If you've seen visually, I don't know how much you watch visually of races, but I have kind of noticed that horses that kind of are the steady chewers when everybody else is kind of dropping back, and the horses that are like, they're not hitting their sprint speed, but they're just kind of steadily chewing their way through the pack and getting up into that kind of stalking range. Those horses on reveals, I've noticed, have been some of the higher speed horses. And so I think speed is kind of one of those, like, you know, you start the race, the first furlong or so, start is like the most important attribute. But then like the next, 2/3 of the race, I think like speed is prevalent in that part of the race. Like it's like the speed is like the attribute that puts you in position to be able to have a kick at the end to win it. So I don't know, that's how I'm viewing it currently. Obviously none of us know, and that's what makes this so fun. And I pride myself on willing to be proven wrong at any given time and willing to change everything and say everything I thought before is wrong, and this is now what I believe in. But that's kind of what I'm currently believing in. And then one more thing on that note that I think is like worth discussing is you and I, Sims, are always looking into game mechanics and what can we learn that's not obvious, right? And one of the things that I feel like, I don't know if it's been spoken about, I haven't heard anybody else speak about it, but might as well here, is like when you look at Gen Zeros and you look at how the team designed the game, right? When you look at Gen Zeros, I would say, for the most part, and when I am talking about horses, I'm really talking about more upper tier, S- and S's specifically. So like if this doesn't play across the fence, down into the B's and stuff, excuse me, I apologize, but I'm really specifically talking to those. But
Yep.
like one of the things I've noticed is for Gen Zeros, when you look at their attributes and then you look at like attributes comparatively to their peers in that grade and in that archetype, the least amount of variance in outcomes on reveals was in speed. You saw horses in RDF, you saw start wide ranging, you saw finish wide ranging, you saw stamina wide ranging, heart wide ranging, temper wide ranging. Speed is one of those attributes that like almost everybody had like one or two letter grades. If you're an S, it was like you had an S or an S plus. If you're an S minus, you had like an S minus or you had an S. For the most part, there's always a couple outliers, but I will say the amount of outliers at speed specifically was smaller, meaning that everybody's kind of playing with relatively the same cards to start with. A part of me, and this is like, conspiracy theorist or game theory, a part of me wonders if the team, with their ability to fully understand underneath the hood and how things play together, if the team knows and is aware that speed could be an overpowering attribute, because of that, let's make the Gen Zeros, that's going to be our closest attributes in terms of outcomes of Gen Zeros that we're going to prescribe to start. And then we know that there's going to be variance rolls that happen. There's going to be wicks to the upside and wicks to the downside, but at least let's kind of start them all out where, of all their attributes, I feel like speed is the one where everyone's kind of the most similar.
That's really interesting. So to unpack some of that, I think chat's as stunned as I am at some of the alpha that GBG is dropping. This must be what other people feel like when I join their stream, except better because it's you and not me. But one, you're saying you're a visuals matter guy, which I think to some extent you've always been able to notice. The one I've always been able to notice for sure is finish. You could tell. I mean, it's not going to be every race because you could have a bad temper run, but the horses that have finish do close. Like that one seems pretty obvious. And I'm more of a 2D visual watcher as opposed to the 3D visual watcher for those scoring at home. So visuals aren't the most important thing to me. The speed thing is, I will say that I hadn't thought about it to the level you just outlined, but what I had noticed, and I think this probably feeds into your argument, is that carries forward on the breeding reports as well. You've seen like on the breeding reports, the variants and the box and whiskers for start and heart, I think, are always the ones that everybody's like, oh my God, look at the wicks on start and heart if you just got the right one. But to your point, it seems like speed is always pretty narrow on some of them. And then that comes back to maybe Shockwave makes sense because you know it is better in speed than the parent, even if it's kind of the same bloodline and overall quality is pretty similar. I want to be conscious of how much time I have with you. I want to get through these S pluses. I want to get through the S Colt that we're going to retire that we bought from you, and then talk about anything you want to talk about. So you push me
I'm
in which
flexible on
direction you
time.
want to go.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
great. Let's hang out.
We looked at Spirit of Ecstasy a little bit. I talked about it a little bit, and it's been on the screen for a while. So we'll move on to Foal of Royalty, another S plus RDF. Not great preferences. So you did something different here, or you just kind of got screwed on preferences a little bit?
This is just with good old Zeus, man. Second time breeding these two together. Their first time together, they created a Colt, Royal Zeus. He was, started out his career really strong. Then he kind of wins turned into placings and showings towards the second half of his career. I don't know if he's been retired. I did sell that horse. So ran it back with these two again. Was super excited to see an S plus out of this. Royalty is one of those horses that from my perspective, she kind of underperformed on the track, and then after reveal, that told me why. She got an S temper, which is like, well, you know what? I'll take her underperforming on the track if this is going to be like a breeder that's going to be really solid for me. And so, that's what I've been hoping she's going to be. So to have this come from two internal horses, fantastic. The preferences, like we said, not fantastic. But hey, you can ding me on preferences all day long if you tell me that I also get an S plus filly out of the deal. So
yeah, that's just it. It's a filly, so it's less concerned about marketability in the breeding barn, where people are going to pay a lot of attention to those stars. And I'm guessing you're not in the market to sell too many fillies, although I guess I shouldn't conclude on that. If you've got three of them, maybe you do sell one. I guess that's up to you at that point. But Full of King Spirit, another Shockwave one, another S plus, but then you started with King Spirit, which was an S plus. So probably we're almost expecting an S plus at that point, and then you get 8 preferences, which is probably, that is a good outcome for you.
Really good
really
preference
nice
roll and a filly. Really excited about it. I think these two match up on paper extremely well from a distance preference standpoint. They both have SS minus stamina. I will say that the one thing on the breeding reports with Shockwave, his stamina seems to be the one thing that he really locks in. So you're guaranteed you're going to be, within a letter grade on stamina. No large wicks there. And I actually prefer that here. It's like some stats I want to go after things that have big wicks and roll the dice, so to speak. Sometimes with certain attributes, I'm actually fine with kind of being locked in my ceiling because it's also locking my floor. And so this is one of those that I was fine with that, just because of the boost that it provided in start and speed comparatively to some of the other breeding reports I ran with King Spirit. So, and then temper and heart was also strong. I mean, this is a horse that I think should probably be. We'll see what happens on the distance preference roll, and we can go down that rabbit hole later on some stuff there. I have some some stuff I've seen and observed. I'd be curious to hear some of your thoughts as well. But this is a horse that I'm anticipating, being able to go from 7 to 12 furlongs, depending on where some of those rolls occur in start and finish and speed primarily. So super happy.
You're already
with
looking
it,
ahead. Yeah, looking ahead 2 seasons for or 3 seasons for the weather forecast for the RDF major for this one, I'm guessing. So
hopefully,
maybe one of the leaders in the clubhouse there. I can go over to our 3 Colts. We can start with Cosmic Wood, which is one we bought from you. I've outlined the thought process, and I know Rolo maybe still is in the chat. I kind of viewed it as a trade for the S- Colt that we had claimed, knowing that it was a realistic possibility for it to be claimed, and making a full circle on that there is an appetite for high dollar claimers. If you can get a horse claimed for $200K, I think not only does that mean that there's an appetite to race in those races, but that some good horses are actually racing there as intended. So this was what really appealed to me about this one was, I think Morningwood in the first crop, this is a first crop horse, had only put out 2 Colts that were S or S plus, I believe, and the S plus was in Eddie's barn. So if I look at how Eddie's treated Morningwood's bloodline, it's been pretty closely guarded, pretty highly priced in the breeding barn. So I knew if I wanted morning line blood, I wasn't going to get it in wide swaths. I wasn't going to get it with our 20 fillies at LDF. I was going to have to do one of 2 things: pay for it at the very top and fingers crossed you get the results you want, or acquire a piece like this where you're taking the rarity 40 fine filly. I misspoke on this one last time I talked about it. I think this is the third best Ziggy that made an LDF, and what would be the second best filly, I believe, on the rarity, just pure rarity. So it's not an S plus, but I would think it has to be a solid S. The race results weren't crazy, but it actually kind of came on of late. Doesn't seem to have a crazy distance preference, and that's probably where it could have, reasonably good stats across the board, which I think we've talked about earlier in this, is that maybe that means it's an actual interesting breeding piece at that point, and that's why it was bought. It was not bought to race it. I won a couple times since we bought it, but at the end of the day, this is something that I totally intend to use for our LDF population this window, because it offered us not just that cheap access to Morningwood blood, but we have an S minus or S minus 20 Colt that we haven't used at all on the Ziggy side. So absent that, we have no Ziggy blood in our barn, no Morningwood in the barn. So it was 2 birds with 1 stone. So someone told me we can retire horses again. So let's see what we get here. Okay. Low on finish, and that probably would explain the Derby conundrum or Derby problems. But the S plus on speed, which both parents had S plus speed. So to your point of narrow ranges there, maybe that would have been the expected outcome. Kind of roll down on temper, roll down on heart, roll down on finish. You sold me a lemon, GVG, as what you expect in stamina, speed, and start. So not a killer, but something we'll still use just as a cheap access point to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still an S for Morningwood with good preferences, and will be very affordable because we'll want it to be affordable for ourselves.
Gonna be
any thoughts
interested
on
to
that
see.
since it was your horse?
Gonna be interested to see when you start to run some breeding reports with this thing, and start to compare and try and see like which of these radials, as we've talked about before, letter grades can be misleading. You can be 1 point away from being an S plus in something, or that speed, because I think he won 4 to 7 furlongs.
4 to 6 is reasonable.
4 to 6. Okay, yeah. So we'll see. Look at that. 4 to 8 had a win. So I'll be curious to see if that's a stronger S plus on the speed side, or what led to some of those results. But those breeding reports are helpful to be able to peel the curtains back on how strong a radial may be on a certain attribute.
Yeah. And for the audience, because I've already been going 2 hours and 8 minutes and my dog clearly wants to go out eventually here this morning yet, we'll get through these retirements, chop it up a little bit more with GBG. And then I know in the schedule for this, I had acknowledged that I was going to run breeding reports with these and kind of showcase those similar to how I did Shockwave versus Primetime, but with these ones instead. I will do that. I'll probably either stream again tonight or save some of that content for potentially later in the week. So we'll see what I accomplish the rest of the day. But we've got 2 more that I want to retire on the Colt side.
Ooh, Dirty
we'll
Diana.
as well.
Yeah,
this one we plan to use. There's only 2 bloodlines of 1-of-1s at RTF that exist naturally, Astro and Scuba. And then we got only using 1-of-1. We got a nice S that was a solid enough racer, nothing crazy, but it has better preferences than the S parent. So I would expect it to be stats beneath Jupiter for sure, but I'm hoping the preferences are enough to offset some of that sting. And I do plan to use this in-house this season. S's across the board except temper. That's kind of crazy. I mean, not unexpected because you had S minuses more or less across the board on Diana, except for start and heart. So you had thought maybe you would have had a chance at S plus start, and you certainly probably would have hoped for S plus stamina, but that's still in that range of outcomes there. So, not bad, about what I would have expected. It's nice to not see any like green stats there. I obviously would have liked an S plus somewhere across the board, but we'll chop up some breeding reports with that one as well. And then a horse that came on late, this one probably would have never even reached your radar, but yeah,
I've seen Ultraviolet, especially in terms of morning line odds, is where this one caught my eye. This one pulled some really good morning line odds.
Yeah, and I'm guessing temper is just fucking shit. If this is not a green temper, I don't know what temper means, because in 29 starts, it's only hit the board 10 times and it's won all 10 times, and seems to be quite good from 10 to 12. I don't know why I didn't race at 11. I just didn't. So I would expect finish to be very strong here. Like if this didn't have S finish, I would be surprised. Maybe even S stamina as well. But I would have to imagine temper is an A plus or potentially even lower. And this is 0-1 of 1's used. It's our A plus LDF 9 of 9 preference with Shawnee Bear. So this is something we would potentially use on the lower end. And I'll probably honestly compare and contrast this with Cosmic Wood. If I'm trying to get a longer distance profile for my horses at LDF, which we are, and Cosmic Wood ain't that, maybe I just use Ultraviolet for the lower stuff and maybe for some of the higher stuff. So let's see what we've got here. Again, I think stamina finish will be high. Temper is going to be somewhere in the green, I would think. Wow, that is interesting.
Wow.
So, I mean, finish just matters a lot at 10 furlongs. It does. Because if you look at the horses that are winning these majors, some of them do have A plus stamina. Like, wasn't the Reina del Un Oro or whatever, the OAB one that was really good, revealed
Did he retire?
A plus. Yeah, it revealed A plus stamina, I think, from an S at LPS
so
or LDS.
Finish may be the most important attribute at 10 furlongs, huh?
Yeah, and yeah, temper was solid. Like, I don't know what explains the inconsistency of this horse then, but that's not the reveal I expected. Finish I did expect, but that's about it there. We'll rifle through some fillies here quick and then tackle anything else you want. I just want to get some of this housekeeping out of the way. As mentioned at the very start, if people were watching GVG with Doughboy, we'll have a bunch of age 0 foals that we'll probably market. Most will be fillies. I plan to probably just race the Colts and claimers. But as you can see on the screen, we've got 225 horses. We do not need 225 horses. That will be a function of why and how many we list. Let's do race. Wow, I got to do the filters first to get to the fillies. Youngest age 3. I think I'm going to retire all of these. And there's probably merit to racing some this week, but there aren't too many crazy killers in here. So we'll start bottom to top, really going through the A plus stuff quick, and then maybe give some time to the higher grades. Too many tabs. Maybe the best JT song of all time, Cry Me a River. Let's see if we get this to retire. I didn't mean for this to take forever, but nothing crazy. Everything within 1 subgrade. Sorry, chat, for the slow loading here. Some of these you can see 5 starts, didn't hit the board. We gave up on some of these fairly quickly on racing. If you ever, wow, That one's interesting. If you ever come through our barn and you're looking, a lot of times we won't have stuff listed, but if you see a horse like this that is late in the 2-year-old season and it's only raced 5 times, that horse is available. If someone wants it, just reach out. That's really interesting with the crazy outlier on finish there and then start. It's got like all the worst things on that RTF has to offer, and got low temper there as well. Pretty status quo. A- temper is kind of crazy, but other than that, nothing. Another one with some variance, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Okay, now we get into some of our better assets. 3 of these I would consider kind of in our top 7 or 8 fillies across the board. Some even are always A pluses like Violet was, but you care about the offspring to see what you got. No different here. This was probably one of the better racers. Most people would probably actually continue to race this one, but for the content. Okay. I like this. This would be like a perfect Colt reveal, honestly, because you can flash the temper for the breeding and you got the speed as a high stat there as well. I don't care as much about start because I'm trying to choose longer distances. So that's a nice reveal. I mean, it was a good racer. So to your point, some of it ends up being a self-fulfilling prophecy of what you see is what you get. This one sucked. From a disappointment standpoint, Walter White won the first 2 RT majors. Diana was dominant at RTF. We made 7 breeds with Walter White to try to bring that 9924 ticket window into RTF, but you take a dominant S- with what was the best RTS, and you stay an S-, and it's not even dominating as much on the track as I thought it would. So this was a disappointment, but look at
what did Walter White typically kind of a longer mid?
Yeah,
8 to 11.
So we've talked about a lot on this stream is RTF lacked speed. It had started and it had stamina, and which kind of made it a mutt, right? Because it didn't really have a distance preference. There was nothing that was clearly aligned. You didn't have 2 stats that work together for a distance preference. RTS and LTS both kind of out of the box preferred longer distances. So we got that here, but yeah, I'm gonna have to find a way to get speed into this. So something like this, like I guess you could, I don't know, I don't want to ruin 3 stars in turf. I was gonna say you could even go to an RDF with it to try to get speed up, but that's quite the sacrifice to do that. So I'll just have to try to find some speed at RTF, I guess. But interesting reveal there to pull off 4 S stats and stay an S-. Obviously, speed was not the best of wicks there. I might even look at the breeding report when I stream later tomorrow, whenever that is. Not a crazy asset here, but it just looks good on paper. Some variance and outcomes, though, for sure. With 3 more, and then we can be done with this. Janie's got it gone. This is
take your time.
This is a really good A plus 22.5 total boost, I think 8.5 total preferences. Same thing we walked through with Diana. This is just one of the 2 A pluses that we did it with. Not a good racer. I don't think many of Jane's offspring have been good racers. I don't know if that's a function of peak age and they just haven't been on the track very much, but when you have enough of the fillies that you pay attention to and watch all of their foals season after season, I'm just trying to pick up on patterns of like, is the filly a good breeder, just the same as you would as well. So this achieves this goal, brings 9924 and another vessel to RTF. Another A speed. So we just like well, it started with A speed here, but if you take A speed with S speed, you still get A speed. It's just totally bricking on the speed. And they're both Walter White. So like that would be something eventually I would want to look at is like, does a sire pass down one stat more often than not? Like maybe Walter White doesn't pass down speed. I don't know. That's just literally talking the talk. Hazel, same thing. This is a 9 of 9, A plus 25, so not that dissimilar from Jane. If this pulls A speed as well, then I would start to look and say, well, maybe Walter isn't passing down speed all that often, but then watch this one do something different and have S speed. Interesting. I don't know where the S plus start comes from. Just would have been a Wick, I guess, because that's better than both. But the lack of speed is going to make that hard to be a good sprinter. Did I even try to race it right? Did I try 4 furlongs? I did. It couldn't win short of 7. That's interesting. So it must be a low S plus on start. And then another horse we completely gave up on. 7 starts, didn't hit the board. An S, but it was an S from an A plus and an S. So like when we talk about averaging as your base case outcome, if you roll up on that, you have to live with the consequences of it potentially being a weak S. Like I would think across the board, this isn't that great of an S. But again, same Walter White experiment of trying to bring 9924 into RTF. So now we've got 4 prominent fillies to work with going forward, but not expecting much on the reveal here. And that's just the best one. Interesting. Just probably not stats in the right spot. We actually finally from Walter White get S speed, and it didn't come from the filly. So when I was talking in the first 3 that maybe the speed was coming from the dam in that case, well, this one does refute that a little bit. So I don't know. Any high level takeaways from you, or where you want to pivot to discuss next?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it does seem like, when you look at attributes across all horses, Gen 0 and all bred, that the least amount of, outlier uprolls or speed. And so it's like, how important does it make it when you do get one of those uprolls in speed of not letting that horse get away from you, Yeah, what's going to happen when the first S or S plus Colt is retired that shows SS minus speed in the stud barn, and then how often does that actually pass on, because what was Walter White's, what did he have for speed? S?
He had S speed. Yeah.
But it's
and we got one
looking like a lower radial S, judging from outcomes, right?
Yeah, and that's how RTS would have profiled as a whole too. So that does make sense for sure.
Yeah.
We got any new Colts that are? I don't know if the filters are working.
Benedict.
Here
What did Benedict show? SS minus start for Benedict. Wow.
Let's see if they've got them fixed.
SS minus heart too. What does he have Benedict priced at there?
Oops, sorry. Just a small fee of 180,000 Derby.
Okay.
That wasn't a no from you. Are you going to Benedict this time?
Nothing's ever a no for me, Hey, listen, one of the things is, you like to talk about, do something that no one else is doing. And sometimes that means paying more than other people are willing to pay and being the first one to go and grab that bloodline. And so, maybe we'll see.
Not the best race record.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a really good asset. Good asset on paper. The highest rarity of any of the PFPs is 11 on the Philly side, so that is the rarest RDF that is not Lollipop or Lolly's Legend. With Primetime makes an S plus. Yeah, that's not super surprising.
Hit his charts there. How many sprints did he run with this thing with SS minus start and S plus speed? It didn't even do great in them, I guess, huh? Interesting.
Could be a late peaking horse too. There's a few variables that's the one benefit of moving the minimum retirement age back is you'll probably be able to suss out peak age a little bit better. But I guess that is a good topic. And I know I've talked a little bit about with Pete as well, but what were your thoughts on we'll call it gameplay mechanics or game theory changes that the team rolled out last night?
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of it. I mean, I would like to see every horse at least have an opportunity to compete in its Archetypes Championship at the age of 3. I always thought it felt weird having to make a decision at the beginning of a 3-year-old's career. Am I retiring this or whatever? And if you're in right dirt, then you're fortunate enough that you can double dip and do both. I do, that's my largest holdings is right dirt. And the first to say, I don't think it's right that right dirt gets to do both, So I think moving it back makes a lot of sense. I really do. I like the, can't retire until the start of their 4th year. I think it's just going to create what we all really want, which is we want the best of the best competing as 3-year-olds against each other. I mean, that's as real as it gets, right? And that's what real horse racing is. And that's what we all signed up for and want to see here. And so, there's like no reason not to go and try and compete for a championship in the archetype if that's the way the team goes with it, which I'm hoping they do. I'm a fan of that. What were the other changes? It was that, and then we moved the breeding back one day. I actually like that to start tomorrow. Yeah. I like having a dedicated foals day today, and new foals on the track for the first time. And then we worry about breeding starting tomorrow. What else was proposed?
Kind of just where they changed incentives for the most part. So we'll go down from 40% kind of a race volume stimulus to 30%, and then 10% of that's getting carried forward to, I think it was next season's juicing pool. And then the races as a whole, mainly the undercards on Saturdays are going to be a little more juiced up. And then there's some races each day that are getting a little juice attention to them. So, I mean, I think that kind of works from a juicing perspective. And we didn't really talk about this part of it with Peep, so it's fair. Is if you want to try to incentivize people to make the best possible horses, one way to do that is reward the best possible horses. And I think if you take stimulus from a sheer volume metric to putting it in the top races, you're achieving that goal. I do worry a little bit that the stimulus pool gets fragmented quite a bit when you've got 30% and then 10% going 7 different ways. I wouldn't hate some visibility on where the marketing 10% is going. I think everybody suspects that it's going to Twitter posts, and that's fine. But when it's kind of 10% coming from the players that wasn't going to the team, like any visibility we can get on where some stuff is going would be nice. On the change from 3 to 4, I agree that RDF should have never had the advantage. When I talked to Peeb, I'd suggested, maybe there's just not a need to run a major in the first week of the season anyways, because there's so much going on. So you've got Foals Day, then you've got a week of breeding and a week of understanding your new racers, because maybe it's easy to race a 3-year-old, but your 2-year-olds could throw you a curveball. So if you want to pay attention to that for the first 3 races of the season, which might take a whole week if you're trying to find races the way you want. So I thought the first week would have been fine to have a blackout in the majors, and then you could potentially just have 4 majors over 3 weeks or 2 majors a week in the last 2 weeks of the season. I hear you on you want the best against the best. I always like the decision point of, okay, I'm sacrificing something by chasing glory, or the flip side is, okay, I can't beat that horse on the track. I'm going to go another whole season without being able to beat that horse on the track. But at least I got to the breeding barn a month earlier than that horse. I thought that was a nice decision point. I get your side of it as well. I think the one thing I would hone in on this, and I did with Peeb, and he said he had the same thought, is it's another, and I get it's one season impact, but it's another one season impact that has a pretty big impact in my opinion. So any colt that is 3 years old now or older does benefit because they won't have anything else coming behind it. So the example I used earlier, and sorry for people hearing this twice, but I think it's important, is the horse I used was Hot Sauce. It's another prime time. It's an S plus in this case. It's 3 years old. So he can retire that now if he wants to, or he can continue to race it. But if he retires it now, the horses that are 2 can't retire next season. So he's kind of got well, him and Benedict, I guess, the one we had on the screen here, him and Benedict have 2 seasons where they don't really have anything other than its own competition. The 2-year-olds won't join them in the breeding barn next window. And I think it's an unintended consequence, but it's kind of a real consequence in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, if you own a top stud that's turning 3 today, then it is absolutely in your best interest to probably retire it and put it in the stud barn, assuming that there's not already something quote unquote better than yours, or at least something that, is the exact same mold of yours. If you have anything unique that's good, like you said, you do have a little kind of an opportunity here to be the only game in town, with no 2-year-olds being able to retire next year when they turn 3. So, back to the championships thing, just worth throwing out there. I mean, I've always kind of liked the idea of 3-year-olds throughout the entire season sprinkling in like 2 to 3 qualifiers a week for the first 3 weeks of the season across all archetypes. And everyone's, trying to qualify for the big race at the end of the season. And then at the end of the season, we run all 4 of the archetype championships back to back. I think it gives, there's a couple of different ways to look at it. It gives horses that are peaking at different times opportunities to shine. So if you have a late blooming horse and you're right dirt and you're running the first week of the season as a 3-year-old, if your horse peaks at, almost 4, 3.5 to, 75% of the way through its 3-year-old career, your championships already came and gone. And now your horse is peaking, and vice versa. But I think I think that it would add this element where like the qualifying is kind of always going on throughout the season. It's not the only thing you're focused on. You can be a lot more choosy about, which races you enter in. The one thing that opens up itself to maybe being gamed and gamified a little bit by the community would be someone that's only entering those races. So maybe at that point, the team would need to do the max amount you can run of qualifiers is 5 races or, 6 races or whatever that number is. Then people can be choosy about which ones they get into. But I think that would, be pretty cool to have the qualifying go throughout the season and then all 4 championships run on the same day at the end of the season.
So then in that case, I'll play that out. What would you do on the first, second, and third Saturdays of the season? Because there's no doubt that they benefit from having a dedicated major towards them. It gives each week its own focus, and there's a dedicated undercard, which is the juice is being increased with this new change. So you're telling me we're going to have a stupendous 4th Saturday of every month, but what do we do for the first 3 in this solution?
Yeah, so for the first 3, I think that's a great opportunity to have your Oaks types races, right? You get not your Oaks, but your Breeders' Cup, your age 2 stuff. Let's create some age 2 championships and have those run throughout the season. It would be a free-for-all because these are 2-year-olds. Nobody knows distance preferences. If you're right dirt, you're coming right out the bat. You're trying to qualify for the right dirt juvenile championship. I think it'd be a lot of fun. It's like, would it be set up the most optimal way to give you time to learn your horse? No, but that's kind of the fun part about it is they're juveniles. And, the big show is when they're 3. So in essence, it's not hurting anything too much there. But I think, the juvenile stuff is, they're juveniles. So, we have no idea where they're at in terms of their peak and their performance relative to their peak. So we already have, this big variable hanging there. So why not just throw another variable of no one knows their distance preference? But yeah, let's let the 2-year-olds be the Saturdays that we all watch and get excited about during the season, while we wait for the 4th Saturday, which has all the 3-year-olds competing for their championships.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna thumb through some other stables here quick to make sure I give people their proper due. I know the D stables guys we're gonna be on with Doughboy either are or probably has already happened. They welcome another 2 S pluses. They've got a couple at LTS where we compete. They've got a couple at RDF where you compete. They just won the major. Things are looking up. I feel like for their Gen Zeros, they weren't anything super crazy.
But they just keep throwing out S pluses.
Yes,
crazy
yes.
man.
Yes, they do.
With 2 internal horses too. It's like, sign me up for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it either. Let's see if JPEG Lord did anything this season. No new S pluses. Things actually look a little thinner here than they had before.
Yeah, it seemed like for more overall horses being bred, right, with the original Gen Zeros plus the first crop old enough to breed, I was expecting more S pluses, like our biggest S plus population boost, and I'm not sure if that's actually going to be the case. I think
we haven't gotten
that being similar.
Yeah, which we've been averaging like 20, 25 a season basically. I think we must be a touch higher, but to your point, we would have retired and bred with 2 additional S's this window, which when we start our Gen 0 population, we only have 2 S's. So normally we would say we would only have 2 chances at it. Like I said earlier, a lot of times I've bred those to S minuses anyways, which means I have about 0 chances at it. But if you have 2 more S's, you'd have thought you'd have had a chance or 2. And I'm fine with us not getting one. I would have liked one with Swift Sapphire or Ape where we went to OEB, but both were Fillies. So that's realistically pretty good outcomes there. But yeah, JPEG Lord's getting a little thin there. We'll have to change from ripping Peeb and YSM all the time to going to
JPEG Lord's the extractors now.
Yeah. Ruiners of the game. Good for RVA. I didn't know this. I've been keeping up with chat. He's got his first S plus this window,
nice.
and it's a Colt. And I'm guessing maybe he used a 1-on-1 this time. This breed Juju hadn't used 1-on-1s previously. Oh, and he got there without it. Wow, that's interesting. He got there without it. This ultimately becomes a massive breeding piece in the barn then, because it's got 0 1-on-1s in it, 2 firm.
That one was 2, right?
Yeah,
now.
but yeah, yes, he does.
And you could retire, or 3, I guess. Actually, yeah, he'd want to be able to be retiring that one right now. But anyway,
plus for no ones. I think that's other than like the prime time stuff. That's got to be maybe Doc. I can't think of other examples that would have gotten there. So that's interesting. Good Juju has been really good. Shoot, I just closed Tombstone. I did know he got one, but I wanted to give him credit where credit is due as well.
Yeah, he got one with what? Lisa, right?
Yeah. Monster Lisa, preferences.
Yeah, one of those high speed horses, one of the rare high speed horses. This should be a good offspring, man.
Yeah, S minus into S plus and stays 8 preferences. Filly, yeah, that's a lovely horse at that point. Who are we missing on? Eddie. I wanted to look at Wimbledon to see what they got. Balthazar, he got his first 2 this time around as well, so that's pretty exciting for him.
Good for him.
Check breaking.
He's been waiting for it. He's got some good blood.
Yeah.
I know he had waited to
retire he's got
too, but yeah.
Yeah, he's got better S Fillies than we do, or at least more of them. So he got one with Mill Street, and that was a Morningwood. We looked at that earlier. I forget what Nevermore was. I'm not a big LDS guy. Rocket Cashel. So an internal breed that gets him there, including owning every part of that. That's kind of nice when you can accomplish that.
Yeah.
What do we got? Eddie's always got a couple, I feel like. We only got one this time, but it's LDF, which I think he'd probably like. Is this the first Rose of Zion S plus? I mean, it starts from an S plus, so I mean that's some of that is expected or baked in. But I know I knew Rose of Zion had been frustrating some of the users of it. Yeah, this is the first S plus from it, and it used an S plus Filly to get there. You've got a couple Rose of Zion foals, don't you?
Yeah, that Cosmic Rose, 3rd one down there.
Yeah, 1 year old
That's
there.
with Cosmo, and then I got another one somewhere. Super Zion, yeah, that Colt down there, the 1 year old Colt.
Okay.
I've only done Rose of Zion twice thus far, so.
Okay.
And I went back to Morningwood with my Gen 0 Fillies this time around.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like Morningwood's been probably the most consistent S plus producer on left. Obviously, Primetime would take that or what have you on the right side of the track.
Yeah,
we've got
breeding
2
reports
more
wise,
for Breaking Bad.
Yeah, breeding reports
Go ahead,
wise, Morningwood definitely gave the largest range of outcomes. I will say, so his offspring have the ability. One of the things he passed on was this start was massive, whiskers on start. So which I'm guessing. What did Lucy Wood reveal? Oh yeah, we're already past it. It's all.
I mean, we can go back if we need to. I'm just trying to look through. Blue is the S plus Philly 5 of 5 match that I told you not to buy. That was some of my better advice I've ever given anybody, for sure.
Well, they haven't raced well. I mean, I'm no knock on anybody, but they haven't. I don't think any of Blue's foals have raced well, have they?
We can pull that up here as well. So this one is the original with Elvis. Again, that's kind of a syndicated breed there, where he controls both parts of it. So you've got the 4-year-old, 13 first or second in 25 tries, so a little more than 50%, but not a crazy win rate. And then kind of the same, 7 out of 16. Yeah, you've got 5 S pluses. That part's consistent for sure. But nice. I guess if you start with an S plus, I guess it's kind of baked in expectation at that point. So just wanted to check the breed here. Shockwave
I just wonder if some of those S pluses are getting S pluses because of those strong temper rolls that Blue seems to pass on, and then that doesn't really necessarily translate into success on the track,
But maybe so then is that something that would discourage you from breeding it with temper, or are you saying like I'll take temper because eventually I'm going to luck box my way into stamina and finish, or start and speed, and then eventually I know we agree start is a narrow band, but for the other ones maybe you can get there.
Yeah, and I think when we look to the future, a horse like your Dirty Diana you showed earlier, which actually had a decent temper roll, but you were expecting a green there. Those are the types of horses that I see, have utility on taking back to a horse from like an offspring like this, you know what I mean? From a Blue type of offspring. I know they're different archetypes, but I'm just specifically talking attributes right now. Where it's like, one of the only things lacking is temper. That's when it makes sense to go into horses like that. I think Doc passes on temper really good as well, which, obviously the Doc and Blue, why they were a lock for an S plus there with, you're going to get a really high temper roll. And it's about what you expect to see on the track, is it's going to always run a good race. So it's probably going to have a healthy win rate and a really strong podium rate. Thing holding it back in those big, really strong fields is some of the other attributes not being quite as strong, probably. How did Blue Alder do?
Yeah, he's a liar. He says don't look at his. It was horrible. I see an S plus that says age 0. That doesn't seem very horrible to me.
And then one
2
S.
S's maybe. Yeah.
Interesting, because Miss Dixie is an S plus. Now, what about they have other S pluses though too, right?
So if I take off the filters there, maybe even just go to retired. That probably actually helps.
Yeah, what an English lady. Yeah.
So then
Holiday Bell, English Lady, and Miss Dixie. So yeah, what are those 3?
So he got an S here. He must have got an S minus out of this. We'll go back to Foals, full of English ladies, what we're looking for, unless he already sold it because he was disappointed. I don't see it. Maybe he did already sell it. So then we can go back to retired and see where the offspring's at.
Interesting.
Progeny. Oh, he's got it listed. He got an S out of it.
An S Colt. He's hating that.
Yeah, it seems to be. But I mean, he's still got one S plus. I'll take one a season for now, and then in like 3 seasons, we better be churning out a few more. So this is another one you said is S plus, and it went to pasture S, which a lot of people have liked, and pasture S has subsequently moved up in breeding price. But yeah, a filly at least, that's usable. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about pasture ass specifically, I know RDF pretty well. I've been really surprised at how many of pasture ass's offspring have been sprinters. Because
it's a scuba.
Yeah, he himself was like, 9 furlongs plus was his specialty. But it seems like the majority of his offspring have been sprinters. So it's kind of interesting to see that.
Miami Nation, Brad, typically in the audience. I haven't noticed or not. I'm a little behind on comments, but looks like he welcomes his first S plus unless he's sold one previously. I don't keep super close tabs. Warwick, unique RTS filly. That makes sense with Churros. Then you definitely are probably expecting an S plus there. Be curious to see how that races. I don't know. You mentioned it with Blue. I think the same will probably applies to Churro racers.
Yep.
Yeah, we even looked at that one. That was 2 S pluses together.
Right.
Drama's reasonably good, but Drama also is a premium RTS filly used in that as well. Those are the only 2 that have hit the track. No, 1 win in 21 tries. Missed the board. Hasn't won in 20 tries, hasn't won in 9 tries, hasn't won in 12 tries, 1 win in 19, 1 win in 18, 2 wins in 40 tries. I mean, now we're at the A plus level, so it's hard to rip those, but
yeah,
not great for the 505 match. S plus Gen Zeros, and if the team is watching, let's not adjust those further.
Yeah, I mean, like if he was passing on stronger preferences, it still, makes sense from a bloodline perspective. But like, man, if you're not getting strong preferences and it's not translating to success on the track, yeah, it's tough.
Shout out to Good Guy Monkey Tennis, always willing to help people out and point them in the right direction. He gets his first S plus, which is probably long overdue because he's got 2 unique Gen 0 Fillies, one that should have been an S22, but ended up being like an S19.5, I think. Went with Mundo. Stays firm. I was kind of hoping he would leave firm alone at that point because this will be a monstrous breeder. Of the S pluses we've seen. Oh, this is last season. Sorry, but of the S pluses I've looked at today, Good Juju is interesting because it got to S plus without a 1 of 1, but this is like a close second. It brings the 1 of 1 that doesn't exist at RTF to RTF.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a good
old
breed.
news to everybody else there.
Go back. What was Serena's offspring this session?
Good question.
She must have stayed S.
And I thought, I don't want to misspeak. I thought I knew where it went for breeding. Is this Churro? I think it is. That would be devastating for the commission believers. It was.
Ooh.
You take what I think is the best Gen 0 filly in the game. Just because RDF is so stacked. And go with the 5 match S plus, and you stay in S. It's at least a filly. And it's ticket window, which doesn't naturally exist at RTF either. But yeah, that's got to be a feels bad there for sure. So I guess I like last season's. Don't love this season for him. Anything else you want to cover? Any other stable you want to look through?
Yeah, what Wolof
The Grape
create? I always like
Grape get another S plus.
See what Wolof's breeding.
I promise to get caught up in chat too as well, at least to make sure there's not any questions there. But what did Stephanie do this time? Baseball, right?
First non-S plus. Oh, I guess
looks that way.
Yeah, she's had an S plus.
What Rose of Zion too? That's another Rose of Zion that was an ambitious breed that didn't meet the mark, I don't think. But Scuba Stephanie, yeah, to your point, is made.
Okay, this was her second non-S plus, but man, what a breeder she's been for great.
And this one, I'm normally willing to give a pass if you're crossing archetypes, because it means you're crossing stats in large cases as well. So when we talked about breeding Walter White, which is RTS, into RTF, the RTSs preferred longer distances, the RTFs offered speed. So you are kind of washing out stats. And if we think the way to move up is to breed stats into stats, like I can understand if you change an archetype that you wouldn't get there. They went to General Duke last time. It didn't get there. It was a bit of a dookie outcome, but obviously once you've done the same breed 3 times, you want to try something a little different, I think. At least I would.
Yeah.
No new ones for Wolof. What do we got for foals here? Oh yeah, it's the age 1-year-old. So then that means he already named everything, right? Wow. This must be the Lollipops Legend one then. This is nice. What is this? One's called Mr. Nice, but I think the other one was nice. I think this must be Lolly's Legend then. With prime time, stays an S. And it's a Colt. That's a feels bad. 909, but... So this is basically Shockwave, but 3 seasons too late. Or Shockwave's just an S. Yeah, that is like a replica of Shockwave.
Yeah.
And Morningwood and Lemon Drop is, yeah, if it's not
That's
the best.
a good breed.
Yeah, if it's not the best S- LDF Gen 0, it's like the second best. It's right up there. I definitely tried to get that horse a few times. So yeah, you get an S, which is totally probably the expected outcome with really solid preferences. I like that.
Really good preference
Wait
roll.
a bit.
That's a good
Made up
breed
for a little bit on firm. Let's see if we got anything in chat that we need to address. Riptide people perhaps too quickly called it as easier to breed up in live. Still thinking it looks about the same at this point. Yeah, maybe that's fair. I mean, we just looked at a few barns that didn't get an S plus this window that you thought maybe would, ourselves included, had at least a couple chances at it, but this is going back to the JJ breed, I think. Yeah, that we definitely needed someone to get there, and then he'll make a mint on studying that out, I think, if he wants to. What else we got here? Purple Jesus Juice is still waiting for S plus. Yeah, he's got good pieces too, so that's probably a little bit disappointing, but I think they'll come. I mean, to the point of, is it easier to breed up in live versus beta? I still think it kind of is, but once the S pluses come, I think they'll come in waves. We started with more Gen 0 fillies being redeemed than in any of the betas. People are using breeding reports to try to breed more intelligently. So the thing that I would encourage people to keep in mind is we're seeing S's beat S pluses. We're seeing S minuses on occasion beat S pluses. The global grade is certainly not everything. There are other factors at play, and I think you can have an S with better stats for a given race than an S plus, even if it wasn't age related. So getting an S isn't the end of the story in a lot of cases.
This past season, I think we saw more S minuses beating fields that contain S's and S pluses than ever before.
Purple Jesus Juice got 4 S's from 3 S minus fillies. That always feels good.
Yeah, that's solid.
What else we got? Yeah, Grape finally with the not best outcome for them. And I would say these stables have consistently outkicked their coverage potentially, or at least properly kicked their coverage that I'm jealous of. But anything else, GVG? Otherwise, I'll probably wrap it up with the expectation that I'm going to do some homework for the community. Those 3 colts that we revealed, we'll run breeding reports both with those colts and then the original sire. So Ultraviolet was the offspring of Violet and Shawnee Bear. So I will provide context of fillies we you have breeding reports for Shawnee Bear, and Philly, we have breeding reports with Ultraviolet. I'll do the same with Cosmic Wood, which obviously would have been an offspring of Morning Wood. So I'll do breeding reports of Cosmic Wood and the breeding reports with Morning Wood. Compare and contrast those the same way we did with Shockwave. I know I wanted to look at Shockwave's offspring a little bit just to see if they were performing better than Primetime's offspring, but that's easier done in the same analysis I'm just talking about. So maybe I'll have that as a takeaway for the next stream as well. But let's see. I just got one more thing to make sure I don't want to miss something here. Oh, Goatsy dropped a horse. I just want to make sure. I wanted to give it some attention, even if he doesn't know that I'm streaming. An S Colt with
oh wow, what a preference!
Nice preferences.
Oh, Eclipse offspring, and then Bad Attitude.
2S minus, yeah.
No
so
one-on-one blood in there anywhere.
No 1-on-1, yeah. Goatsy for the win there. Is that this is the old JJ horse, I think. This is a 4-match Gen 0. That's interesting. I don't know if you caught me and Peep talking. Our preferences are not preferences, but our matches still alive and well, or is this a temper situation? But you're seeing these matched horses come together, and I don't know. There's a ton of matches involved in this breed. And it worked out.
Yeah, I think like we said, I mean, depends on how many matches, max matches can actually hurt your ceiling, but it locks in your floor. It's like less variance, right? I think we've seen that. That was equal to the breeding reports. It's why we used Primetime and Churro for some of our comparables when we were comparing breeding reports, but keeping the stud be the fixed variable. And so this was a 4. What was Eclipse? Did it have matches?
Eclipse would have been a 3-match, I think. Yeah, because it's 9 of 9 preference. It's either 3 or 4. I don't want to shortchange Peeb or he'll get mad. But
interesting.
It's at least 3. So Bad Attitude would have been, I think, 2 or 3. Duchess is 4. I know that because back in the day when we talked about this, kind of got a crappy outcome because it didn't have preferences, meaning it couldn't race effectively. But I guess if you wait a couple seasons, it can make something pretty special. So that's a nice horse there, and I have it on good authority. Some people are already inquiring to buy it, and that's why.
I guarantee you, Pete's ready to buy that one.
I didn't name names. You named names.
Oh my god!
All right. Well,
all hands on deck. Syndicate meeting they're having over there at YSM right now.
For sure. I just hit 2 minutes and 57 seconds, which means my dog hasn't been outside for probably 3 hours and 25 minutes. So I'm going to tend to that.
Yeah, thanks for streaming.
I appreciate the extended GVG time and really the unique thought process on, I think, people that tuned in learn new stuff on speed. They learn new stuff on how some community members view the visuals. So there's a lot to chew on here. If you're just joining now, we've got the highest viewer count just as we're about to end. So I apologize for that. But as always, the broadcast will be available for replay on demand on YouTube. So look for us there. Like I said, I'll either be back tonight or at some point this week to review Gen 1 Colts and breeding reports associated with those. So again, thanks again we had Peeb. Thanks again to K Kirk, who was up for a bit, and obviously, most importantly, GBG. Love having you. So thank you, sir.
Hey, man. Always a pleasure, sir.
See ya.